This conference will now be recorded.
of that council member that Mayor Owens is seeking a PPO against. Here's what happened.
I'm here in support of Councilman Curley.
Okay, you know what? I'm gonna stop you right there, or we're gonna stop the council meeting, because I'm not gonna let you speak on something that has to do with police, the
You don't
police
know what I'm
and.
going to say.
That's East Point Mayor Monique Owens sounding off on residents supporting council member Harvey Curley. Here's a background that led to this boiling point. Owens says Curley assaulted her back in June at the Cruising Gratiot event. She's seeking a personal protection order. Curley denies the allegation. I showed this East Point residents video of the city council meeting for the first time. That's Mayor Monique Owens.
Oh, man. She's in a tight situation, I say.
I'm gonna have a point of order and I'm gonna talk over you. This gonna be one of those meetings y'all never seen before. You're not gonna disrespect people that have
You
things
interrupt.
going on.
What is the city council for if she can't go in front of the city council?
And what
Talk about public things.
she can talk about public things, but I'm giving her a warning, just like we have always give people warnings before they spoke on certain things.
That's inappropriate.
I reached out to Mayor Owens, city council members, and citizens to meet me here and share their perspective of what happened. Everyone agreed except for Mayor Owens, who stopped replying to my requests for an interview.
Her actions were deplorable. It had nothing to do with her filing for a PPO or an assault charge.
The public can still come out and they can scrutinize us all they want. I mean, that's part of the position.
Yes, we have First Amendment rights, but no one, even though we have First Amendment rights, no one is allowed to say anything racial or discriminatory at that mic, and I will stop them if it's gonna cause disorder.
2 more East Point citizens attempted to speak
You know, I
and had
think you get
disputes
the
with the
point.
mayor.
Objections,
So, but the point there, what did y'all see with the mayor?
she likes to hear herself talk.
Tone,
Yeah.
body language, that finger?
Yeah.
You know, even if a resident is given 2, 3, 4 minutes, whatever y'all, and I heard the mayor, this is why we're careful to interact with the public. Bingo, you're correct. Listen to them, just let them speak. If they call you out and say you're corrupt, I've been called a crook. It's not worth, because if you then elevate it to where now you've got the media covering this, then they're gonna add a story, then they're gonna add a follow-up story. Just, it's best to avoid that. Let the public speak. So now, we are seeing more things that are occurring outside of council meetings, right? And that's been elevated by the proliferation of social media. I like social media. I'm trying to think if I don't think I am friends with any of y'all, but I use it a lot. I use it daily. But I'm very cautious. I don't get negative. I don't talk about religion. I don't talk about politics. There's just things I avoid that. Well, you know, here we have the current mayor and they're running for an election, and I get it. You have a right to support other candidates. I'm not, you know, I would caution you, you're creating problems if they get elected. So the seated council, the mayor wants them to get reelected. So the individuals that are running against him, he posts their mugshots. They've been arrested. I mean, people get arrested. So he posts the mugshots of the candidates that are running to encourage people to vote for the seated members. And maybe we shouldn't be voting for people that have mugshots. I get it. But there's just things that you don't do. Don't get in the mud with a bunch of pigs. Just stay away. That was in Florida. Could have been in South Carolina, but anyway. So here's California. And so the city and county managers of California got together and they went to they kind of did a white paper for elected officials. And they said, you know, what is the greatest challenge with workforce? We talked about the workforce. And here are city and county managers saying it starts with civility. Elected officials' role in attracting and retaining employees. Elected officials may not realize that their behavior directly affects employees' willingness to join or stay in an organization. In a dysfunctional political environment, employees at the management level may cope and continue with their work, but may be reluctant to take the next step. So you've got employees who are like, I don't want to be in management because I got to deal with this chaos. Prospective employees, so these are the employees that are watching you, people that you want to work for you, may hesitate to join an organization knowing there's a lack of civility and stability among the leadership. So here's city and county managers from California, stating, and it's not just about, civility is not about agreeing. I'm not saying that y'all need to agree. You can disagree. We've just got to do it in a civil way. And hopefully y'all are familiar with Howard Duvall. Howard was our director for many years. He was the mayor of Terrell. He's now a council member for the city of Columbia. He noted that he ran against Columbia. The city of Columbia put $30 million of public money into a baseball stadium. He ran for city council against that because he said the public should not be involved in professional baseball. That's a legitimate, but he was outvoted. And so once he was outvoted, he said, the vote is done. I am now going to support the success of the baseball stadium. Council spoken, we move on. He is now the chairman of the committee that's running the baseball stadium. Because, and he, in the beginning, he said, I disagree, but now, so just remember, once the vote occurs, we've got to move on. Here's a study by Harvard Business Review. And so this is all, and we've talked about this. I know this is important to y'all because this was one of your goals, right? Your brand. Y'all told me that you wanted the public to see you as a place where we want to encourage business, as that our staff are going to get you done, that our permitting process is going to be, good, quick, reasonable. I heard y'all say that. Well, when people outside witness this stuff, and this is in any industry, people are less likely to buy from a company with an employee they perceive as rude, whether the rudeness is directed at them or not, or other employees. Witnessing just a single unpleasant interaction leads to customers to generalize about other employees, the organization, or the brand. So again, if these interactions are getting out and the public is finding out, the brand of your municipality is, and so I get it, I know, but we want to keep our marriage healthy. So what can you do? And so yesterday, the timing of this presentation that y'all asked me to do was perfect. Yesterday, the South Carolina Mayors Association met in Columbia, and there were about 40 mayors from across the state. And they had an hour discussion on civility and how they have been successful in tough situations. Because this is tough. If I was sitting there in your shoes, Mayor, and somebody was yelling at me, I'd want to yell back too. I get it. This is tough. So what can you do as a team? First, with your meetings, make sure you're following the rules of order. Have good procedures. Restrict, limit I don't know if y'all, and I'm sure you do, 3 minutes.
5 minutes.
Whatever it is. Tight. Tight. Don't let people talk outside of that parameter. Don't get into a conversation with them. Follow that. Those two council members we saw in the beginning jabbing at each other. That conversation was really out of order. I mean, that didn't have anything to do with the business, right? So follow order. And you say, well, I mean, that's not a way to have a conversation. If you really need, and I think I've got that, if it's a tough topic, and y'all have got some tough topics, I know the peer's been stressful, call a work session. Instead of getting up here at a formal dais, set a table up and surround that table, looking at each other in the eye. And it's an advertised meeting, right? You got to advertise it, but just sit around the table and have a conversation and work it out. Public can be here, they can listen. They shouldn't be allowed to speak. But, you know, when you've got things that there's opposition, call a work session. You know, work through that before you bring it to the formal process. Open every public comment period with a reminder or statement of civility. And since the media is not here, your neighbor, the mayor of Myrtle Beach was there, and y'all may not like, I don't know, y'all may not like Myrtle Beach, and I'm not getting into all that. But she noted, she said, whenever they have a public comment period, she opens it with a prepared statement that reminds the public, you know, we're going to act civil, whatever. I don't know what, I could get the statement if y'all are interested. You know, this is what we expect of you. Keep your voice, no foul language. And she said that statement has made improvements. They were frustrated that they were having to remove so many people. And they've gotten that down. She said in recent years, they've only removed 3 people. And they don't want to remove anybody. They want to let them speak, get their whatever out. But if you're going to cuss, and you've got to be removed. So open up with a statement. The recess, so y'all saw that. And the mayor, I think it was Fountain Inn, he said that they have used a recess to, you know, to stop that conversation, take a time out, and then come back. The mayor of, I think Hanahan mentioned this, you know, the person that's yelling or screaming or whatever at you, don't match their emotion. You've got to keep your emotion in check. That's so important. Keep your tone. You can control your tone. So don't match the tone. And we saw the one mayor in the second video. I mean, she shouldn't have been yelling and screaming at the citizen. That didn't help anything. And then listen, take the time to listen. And I know it's hard. Some of this stuff, you know, but you just got to listen to it. And this is the same with each of you. The mayor in Fountain Inn said that he had coffee with every council member individually at least once or twice a year to just, and I think I talked with y'all about that in a goal setting where you're trying to build the trust. And I get it. There are individuals that are elected in our state. I'm not saying any of y'all, but I don't recommend some mayors to have coffee with them because they're just that extreme. And no matter what you say, it doesn't matter. So I get it. There's some situations where there's just no effort. You can get common sense. But if you can develop a relationship, try to do that. That's very important. So some other things the mayor shared, solutions to this incivility. I already mentioned it, workshop. So if you've got something that you know that there's disagreement, have a workshop. Get around the table. Don't get this formal and work it out. Social media. So again, the mayor, Hanahan, she's on social media a lot. She's a realtor. And she noted, she said, keep it cheerleader. I'm the cheerleader. You need to make sure your posts are cheerleader. And she follows a lot of stuff. She's in all these groups, and y'all know there's all these neighborhood groups and friends of, and she said, as long as I'm in there and it's positive, I stay in there and I read it and I listen. But she admitted, she said, there's one group in Hanahan, it was, I can't remember if it was the name of it, it's like Hanahan 1 or And she said, I started reading some of this stuff, and not a single post in this group had a solution, or it was just junk. And she said, I realized I don't need to be listening to this. I don't need to be involved in this. So she removed herself from that group. So now she tries to look at a diverse mix on social media. But if folks only want to have just this whatever, don't waste your time trying to appease that, because you're not going to. You're not. We already showed that. Don't fuss at a meeting. It's just, you just can't do it. I've already talked about, I've used this slide with y'all before, the Vince Lombardi quote. I love it. My favorite quote. You should never call out staff. And I mean, and I've told y'all, staff may deserve to be called out. They may deserve it, but don't do it, because you undermine staff in their ability to get their job done when you call them out disparagingly. So don't do that. And I've already mentioned the body language. It's so important. Just how if do you look approachable or not? Do you point? Don't do it. And then I'll end with John F. Kennedy's quote. And again, I love this quote. Let's begin anew, remembering on both sides that civility is not a sign of weakness. I think we get, I don't want to, I'm right, you're wrong. I don't want to concede to what, and we can't look at it that way. It's not about being right or wrong. And sincerity is always a subject of proof. Let us never negotiate out of fear, but let us never fear to negotiate. Let both sides explore what problems unite us instead of belaboring those problems which divide us. So y'all got a lot of things to be proud of here in Surfside. So just keep that in mind. Let's stay focused on the positive stuff and not let the negative draw us down. So questions that you have for me about civility. I left the cards. We have little fancy buttons if anybody wants a button. I got plenty with me. You're welcome to adopt the resolution and use it at every meeting. We have some cities that are doing that. But it's a good reminder. This whole coming year, 2023, we're going to be looking at other tools that we can give you. You're probably familiar with verbal judo with the conversation. We provide training in the police side about how to better communicate with individuals. And so we're going to be looking at some verbal judo resources that we can share with elected officials. Other, yes, sir.
If you talk about being married to a person, if we're married as a group, if you've done got a divorce from one of these people in this group, or two of these people in this group, how do you repair that relationship? And it's probably gone beyond the point of getting back together. What do you do then?
Well, you cannot remove one another. You're here. You can't get a divorce because the state law says that a member, unless you commit a crime of moral turpitude, you have to be here. And you have to remember, each of you, raised your right hand and gave an oath that you would serve the citizens of Surfside Beach. So it's not about you or the other person, it's about Surfside Beach. And so you gotta figure out a way. That's the only thing I tell you. And I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not. I'm here to, but if you're not willing to let bygones be bygones and try to find a way, then you're not carrying out your oath. Good point. Other questions?
Well, Charlie, one thing I think in civility is you can't keeping emotions, like you said, in check. No, it's hard to do. It's hard to do for all of us at times. But I think it has to be a time where the mayor has to, maybe should say, let's take a break from that, or we'll ask somebody to, because during the meeting. Because if it's coming across emotional, it's gone already. And
Yep.
you have to stop it really quick.
Yep.
And I don't know either way, except.
Again, I'm not saying that this is easy. But, again, I think each of you wants your economy to sustain itself and do well. I mean, in jobs and I didn't say this, but you know, if an investor sees some of this stuff, the person that's wanting to spend money in Surfside Beach, do you think that they're going to want to drop millions of dollars in a business with stuff going on?
But Charlie, on the other hand,
Sure.
if you're seeing a council person, any council person, degrading other citizens or town employees, and you don't feel the same way that they do, and you can't talk to them or agree with them, however, how are you going to get across something when somebody sitting and talking about these people and you're not on board with that? And
Well-
you know, that happens in our meetings.
Yeah.
It happens at this dais right now. So as one of them people that voices my opinion, I want people to realize where I'm coming from and that I'm trying to represent them as the best of my ability. And I don't feel like somebody else on council may be doing that or downgrading somebody. It's hard not to get upset with it. And it's very hard to sit here at this dais and take some of the things that goes on. I mean,
Point of order should be called in most cases, not to interrupt, but that's the problem.
But you
When
can
things
still
start going
express your
awry, somebody
opinion
needs to
in the
call
way
point
that
of
you
order.
feel, in the way, without putting somebody else down and knocking the way they feel.
Yeah, I mean, I would never
That's the
want
problem I
to,
have.
I would never want to make a statement, no matter if, again, it's just like if my wife deserved it. Or if I deserved it, I mean, I'm not, it's not, you're not, by the female council member that made the statement, she was hurt by the social media post. And maybe the other council member is wrong. Maybe they're wrong. But by her putting that out publicly, there was no gain. She didn't gain anything out of that. Do you think? I mean, I'm just asking.
no, I don't think you do. But on the other hand, you're representing these people who, when they see this on social media, they might not call the person that put it out on social media. They're going to call some of the other council people and complain about it.
I just still feel in my heart, in my 25 years of working this, I'm not elected, but I still think you take the high road. I just think you've got to take the high road. If you can have a conversation behind closed doors to say, hey, I heard about this. I'm just coming to you one-on-one, and I know that there are people that you can't have those conversations with. I get it. I get it. I've got council members that will, in our state, that will record each other. I mean, it's just silly. But you're not gaining anything. Surfside is not gaining anything by you bringing this out publicly. You're not. And
Most,
go
I
ahead.
was gonna say, most voters, most residents see through all that. They really do. You read the social media, you get a couple chip back and forth. Most people do. Can we stop the childish stuff? I didn't sign on to this to hear this. And they'll say stuff like that. And you get the gist. If you read it enough, you see it's the same people comment over and over and over and over. And you count them and there's 10. There's 3,500 people living there.
Bingo.
They're the same people.
And that was where the mayor of Hanahan mentioned the group. She started looking at the group and she said,
Yeah.
this is not a representation
No, it's
of
not.
Hanahan.
No, it's not.
I'm getting out of this. I'm not listening to this.
Right.
I'm going to make the
Right.
60 to 75% silent majority happy.
Happy, exactly.
I'm not listening to this.
And you notice that if you read any of that stuff, it's constantly the same people or their fake profiles or their, I'm serious. I mean, it's all kind of crazy stuff.
Sure.
And how you going to please them? You're not. The best thing to do is turn it off. Don't comment to it. Leave it alone. Let it sit. And they'll get tired of talking to each other or they'll go away.
There's some that have said, I'm just not going to get on social media. And if it boils you up that much, then I wouldn't recommend it. I don't read, I like social media. I'm on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. I have my children do TikTok and I just can't do it. But from a cheerleading standpoint, those elected officials that I see that do it as a cheerleading standpoint, again, taking a photo of your employees. I saw your people coming in, working on getting your flowers, your winter flowers set up and take photos. We're proud of our Christmas lights. That's what you're wanting to be posting right now.
New restaurants.
New restaurant. I'm eating out at our great, but
Right.
beyond that, you don't want to deal with it.
I was thinking of you talking about your wife, and I was thinking about my wife. And the thing that gets me the most, I'll say something, and she said, don't raise your voice to me. And we all know what that means. And it really throws me in check, because I didn't even realize I had raised my voice. Because sometimes you don't, because you're speaking on something or you're saying something, you don't even realize you're raising it or loud. You just don't even, but it's.
What makes my wife so, I'm silent. So my wife and I'll just sit there. We'll talk, we'll tell me, and I'll just, and so it's all about timing. There's timing to all this stuff. You've got to think that, if I call somebody out, well, is that going to hurt me getting something done in a neighborhood in the future? It might. It might. So y'all are in this again. You've got a 4-year term. This is a never-ending marathon. Surfside's not going away. I mean, it needs 100, decades of leadership. And so we can't get caught up in these moments. We've got to look at it holistically.
Social media should not take the place of workshops. I think, especially on your council, if you don't agree with something or you think a decision was made, I go back to what you just showed. Once the decision is made, the vote is done, you support it. I mean, that's our job. That's your manager's job. Once that decision is made, it doesn't matter if it's 4-3 or 7-0. His or her job is to move forward with that thing. And social media, staff, when we see stuff on social media that's just not right, we don't have the luxury to say that's not right. So it's very.
Yes and no, I agree.
Social media is a one-way communication tool. It's not really from a municipal perspective meant to be a two-way conversation. It's one thing if somebody has a valid question and you have the answer, fine. If it's to the topic, but it's not meant to be a 2 or 3-way conversation. It's meant to be one way. Here is information you may be interested in having. Very rarely do, I post what's on the agenda for the meetings. I post what happens at the meetings. Here's how the vote went. Here's what the discussion was, whatever. But very rarely, you get the laundry list of the naysayers and, people just want to stir the pot. They're making comments that are totally irrelevant to anything that was in the post. I mean, unless somebody comes back with a valid question, I will answer that question, but I rarely engage in any of it. So it's just, no, here's what happened at the meeting. One-way communication. A few of us ran on transparency. You know, social media is a blessing and a curse. You know, it is a blessing because it does reach a very wide audience. It has the ability of sharing to even beyond that audience.
Yeah.
You know, and as long as you consider it one-way communication, here's what happened, here's, you know, what we're doing. You know, and very rarely, you know, in some cases I'll put, in my opinion, I'll put IMO, in my opinion, something about it, but, you know, that's neither here nor there. It's still, here's what happened, here's what the vote was. It passed, we're moving on. So I think a lot of the angst comes from, like Mayor Hanahan said, yeah, we have a handful of people that just like to jump on every page and every site and, you know, just defame certain people and, you know, just stir the pot. We've got another page that claims to be fact checkers that have very few facts about it. They're just constantly bashing the same people and bashing the town and everything else. So, you know, but you gotta just ignore those people. They live evil existences and just let them go.
Yeah. The only thing I would say to what Bill said, and I would concur with him, except, and I know y'all are doing this, you hired a public information officer. And so I think that somebody, as much as it pains you to read some of this stuff, somebody needs to be listening at least.
Yeah.
Because then that helps you to mold. Again, I wouldn't want your public information officer, and they know this, you don't get an employees, but still, if somebody's questioning, puts misinformation about why the garbage didn't get picked up.
Right, that needs to be addressed.
Yeah,
That stuff
exactly.
needs to
And
be
that's
addressed.
what the public information officer
Right,
needs.
and they need to be putting stuff out to correct that.
Right.
If it's I can't believe the council is voting to pull all the petunias up in town. No, we're talking about pulling them up at the park and replanting so-and-so, so-and-so.
Yeah.
That's what you get. They gotta have some kind of way of addressing that and
Staying ahead of it.
Stay ahead of it, stay on top of it. And if they come out and saying something bad about the fire chief,
you know,
then the fire chief,
when
he's late, he's this, he's that. Then be some comment about, I'd like to inform the citizens of Surfside Beach. Our fire chief has got meetings in the morning. He is at town hall.
Yeah.
He's gonna be here from this time to this time. He checks in at the fire department. Then he
Yeah.
comes back over here and he does this. That'll wake up, well, no shit. He can't do two places at one time. He's gotta split his day up.
Yeah.
You know, instead of hearing those 10 people or those 5 people on every page, they want to hear themselves talk.
I think y'all got it. So, but
Well, Charlie,
it's not, I'm not wanting you to leave here that it's not easy. And so I thank y'all for your commitment.
the problem that I have is that I want to make it perfectly clear that, you know, I want to give every council member the opportunity to say what they need to say. So I will usually go out, and, you know, depending on the topic, depending on the importance of it, I may call each individual council member and let them get their own thing, which I don't have a problem with, and I think that they like having that little say-so. The problem is that when you're talking to, let's say you give it to me, okay, it's one thing for me to say, I disagree with, you know, the direction this is going, and, you know, that's not my policy, I'm not gonna vote for it, but, you know, hear it the same. It's another thing to say, oh, no, you know, this council member over here doesn't know what they're talking about, or to, you know, to put down somebody else in their thing, that's where we have the problem. You know, everybody can say what their thing is, and I don't have a problem with it, even if it's not what I think or whatever. Everybody here on council has the right to their own opinion.
That's right.
But not the right to put somebody else down for their opinion. And that's where we're running into problems.
Totally agree. If y'all are doing that, again, I'm not saying you agree with the other individual, but you're not helping yourself.
You can agree to disagree.
You're not helping. You're not carrying out your oath. You're not.
Well, that's the only thing that I would ask of everybody on council is to think about that, you know, when they're talking. And they have the right to express their opinion and tell everybody, you know, their constituents that are sitting out there, tell them the way that they think. but don't put somebody else down for the way that they're thinking.
To include staff.
And we appreciate you coming, man.
Very good.
Always great to be here.
Good day.
We'll let you know. We'll let you know how it goes.
Can you come back next week and go over this again?
I'm happy to. I'm happy to.
I'm sorry, I missed that civilian thing with the mayor's thing. I had to cancel it.
The weather was awful yesterday.
We had a lot going on here in town. I just couldn't get up.
That's right.
What do we have going on?
That was a free trip too. Is that the same ball stadium they're talking about where it met?
Yeah. And that was where he told the story yesterday, and I didn't know that he ran in opposition of it.
I was looking forward to going up and seeing that. Well, before we adjourn this part and wait for the other people.
I think he's ready. I
Oh, is he?
He is.
think he's right there and ready.
Right on time. I said 11:15, 11:30, right? Good ballpark.
Well, if that's the case, come on down.
You're the next contestant on the Surf South Price is Right. Waiting on you.
Charlie's gonna be a hard person to follow.
Oh, I know, I got enough of that to realize I got setbacks.
And Charlie, we appreciate you.
Oh, yes, sir.
Thank you, Charlie.
Y'all know anytime.
You do good work.
Well,
It's nice to hear.
I got the easy part. Y'all got to implement
Yeah, you do have the easy
it.
part.
I got the easy part. Y'all got the hard part.
Now, if Charlie's wife calls him and asks him a question, he's in trouble.
If she ever found out that I used.
You better hope she didn't sign on to our live feed, you know?
How y'all doing this morning? Almost afternoon, it's still morning. It's still morning. Thank you for coming. Thank you all for having me.
Everybody's got their laptops.
Well, I don't know if I need it or not. I figure better to come prepared than not. How about that?
That's it.
That's it. I will tell you all, are we ready to start?
Sure.
Yeah.
Totally.
It's all yours.
Well, thank you.
Just one thing, try and hit the microphone as much
Yes,
as you can, or, stay within the vicinity.
I like to roam, that's a process. Thank you all for allowing me to come back today. My name is Brent Green. I'm with Creech and Associates. I think we've been here a couple of times in the past, once to sort of share our interview, came down a second time to discuss the project with you all. I have those presentations, but to be honest with you, I just came to listen and respond to your questions today. So I'm happy to share whatever information that you all would like to see, but my understanding is that you all had some specific questions for us regarding the scope, how you want us to approach the project. And my mission today is to let you guys know that, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're good. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to get in your way.
Our mission today is to let you all know that we can customize this scope and handle this approach in whatever way that this group sees fit. We showed a lot of work in our presentation that was finished work, and that's just to establish our qualifications. We're not saying that you all need any of that. It's just our way of saying the work that we've done. So you all have a copy of that scope there. It's broken down into 6 or 7 tasks, and each of those tasks would be the pathway that we would typically take if a municipality wanted to explore their options and come up with sort of information that can inform your decisions moving forward. And that's really what this is about. You got a couple of options that you're weighing as we understand it, and you want to go through an exercise so that you can have information to make an informed decision relative to cost, magnitude, and the other project parameters. So that's my little short intro. Bill, is there anything else that I should add or?
And we spoke with them and we let them know that we needed them to come down so we can figure out exactly what was wanted. Based on what was wanted, then they could go back and they can give the prices and all all of that stuff. But again, when we did it the first time, you know, as you just said, it felt that maybe we were telling you, oh, we wanted to do this great big complex and so on and so forth. And that's not what we were trying to do. We were trying to show all of the qualifications, and so we could identify what was wanted to happen, and then we could make that happen.
Let me just go over some brief things to help you out. Originally, we were here on this project, okay, and this here with the Civic Center, the Police Department, the Fire Department, and Town Hall were over here. About a year and a half ago, we found out that we had a mold problem, we had whatever, and that we needed to make some adjustments. So what we did, we moved out of that building over there. You can see that they're in the demolishing aspect of it right now.
I noticed that this morning, yes.
But, you know, they're removing the asbestos, and that building is going to be
So you
gone.
are
It's going to be leveled to the ground. They're going to landscape it. It's going to be grass. Okay. In lieu of that, we needed some other place to move Town Hall, and we tried to figure out what we were going to do and how we were going to do it. And there was a building, and I'm sure you've been to it across the street, which is our new Town Hall.
Right.
When we built that building, we were trying to, you know, we were in a hurry to do it, okay? Money was an issue, but we worked it out so that we had the money to move over, we had the money to do the renovations, we had the money to move our town hall and to, quote, get our employees out of harm's way. So that's what we did. And when we budgeted the money there, we put a total of $1.8 million to get it done. The building was $1 million. We had 8 to get done, so we did some modifications, fixed the air conditioning, did everything that we needed to do to make it good. We also bought 2 pieces of property next to it so that we could expand on it. And at the time that we did that, what was going to happen is we were going to build a council chamber over there so that we could go over here. And this has some issues with it too. And we allotted $600,000 to do that. All right. That hasn't gotten done. That was still in the talks or discussion. And basically what happened, and I think that's why when you guys were here before, there was some contention about, you know, we don't need this, we're doing it over there and everything else. You know, the bottom line is this. The bottom line is we're right now in the process of doing our comprehensive plan. So we're supposed to be planning what's going on in this town for the next 10 years in the next year, okay? And we know that we have issues with all sorts of stuff, okay? Our fire department needs some stuff done. We're talking about the possibility of emergency communication center. Sure. The police department is overgrown, and this, you know, things need to be done. And basically what we need is basically somebody to come in, give us some ideas, somebody to give us some whatever, and to help us create a plan for our future. Now, the other thing that we're worried about right now is we started out with a pier that was going to cost us $14 million, and now it's costing about $22 million. So we think that we have that sort of under control, but we have no idea. And we're not going to know until we get it done.
Right.
So council as a whole has basically come up with, you know what, we need to think about it, but we're not doing anything until the pier gets done. Because if we find out we're $12 million in debt on that, and we don't know how we're going to pay for it, and then, but you know, optimistic people are telling us we're going to be okay. And if we're going to be okay, we need to plan for our future.
Exactly.
So that was sort of the miscommunication we had when you guys came in before.
Mm-hmm.
So we've talked about it since then, and we've decided this, that no matter what goes, we need to plan for our future. All right, we need to plan on what buildings need to go where, and we're not worried right now about the money that we have to do it. We need to make a vision of what we want.
Right.
And that's going to take somebody like you to help us do that.
That's right.
So the question that we had originally is, we have $600,000 that was put to go do a council chamber over on the other side. Okay. We don't know with the supply chain and cost of everything, and we don't know if that's a good figure or not a good figure, but we need somebody to tell us that. We need somebody to look at what we have, which we have the town hall property, the 2 properties attached to it. We have this property where town hall's getting torn down, this building and the annex next to it. So where we're standing right now needs to go. We just don't know where, when, or how.
Right.
Okay. And we're operating on a temporary basis, but we need a plan for the future.
Yes, sir.
And us talking about it, we've come to the conclusion that we don't have the ability to plan it. I mean, we can talk about, what we like and this and that and the other thing, but we're going to need a professional to come in and give us the thing and to give us some ideas. And if we have these ideas and we have these plans, then we can plan for our future and plan the money to budget to get it done.
Exactly.
And based on what the final income or final outcome is on what you give us, then we can plan on maybe getting some grant money. Maybe there's money to help us with an EOC center. Maybe there's this and that. But, all of that, it's not going to, we're going to make a phone call and get $1 million. All of that needs planning.
That's right.
So we need to do the architectural plan, and we need to figure out what we want before we plan on how to do it. So that sort of gives you an idea. So tell us what you can do to help us with that.
Sure. Well, two things. One is I'm glad to hear you say that, because that's exactly what we do. So I'm in the right place. And the second thing I'll say is what you all are proposing is what the vast majority of people also do. So the process that you've decided to go through is the right process. I mean, ultimately, you all need to be able to make informed decisions. And we can work with you to establish that vision and hand you all these options to decide from and make your plans around in the future. And we understand the need to focus on getting kind of that big project off your plate. We can start whatever you all want to start, but all this work can be happening in the background really while that is finishing up, if you so desire. And when I say work, I'm talking about the study. I'm not talking about anything beyond that. Typically, as you would see in that piece there, we're going to do our space needs assessment because we need to write a program. How many seats do you all need in your new chamber space that we're proposing? Is it this size? Does this size work for all of your meetings? What about your staff and the spaces that they need? You mentioned police. We're going to assume we would need to talk to them and find out if their space is outsized. You mentioned fire, which is a new component that I hadn't heard about until today. Those are all in our wheelhouse. Those are the types of facilities that we program and design. So we would spend a day or two up here meeting with all these folks, touring all these buildings, getting all the context. Then we're going to go back and write a program, and that would dictate the size. And then you all can say, well, that's too big or that's too small. And then we can talk about cost. Well, at $425 a square foot, which is about what our market is putting out right now for these type of buildings, then you can work backwards and say, do we want to, you said 600,000, that's going to build you around 1,500 square feet, I'm guessing, just based on some quick math. I don't know. I have seen that previous study that was done on the site across
Well, we
the
didn't
street.
have any architecture diagrams to do that.
Right.
We didn't, over in town hall, we don't have the plans. So that $600,000 was an estimate.
Right.
Okay.
Mhm.
We figured based on the square footage and stuff that 600 is enough to do it.
Okay.
Okay.
Mhm.
But we haven't looked at the difference between what it is to build there as what it is to build here. Over there, we don't have, we would need to, we do water and plumbing and stuff. And here we have a lot.
Right.
Here we have a big electrical base, which that electrical base is only set for that building.
So you have to
know,
upgrade your
and
service.
Yeah, we don't know what the thing is.
Sure.
We just need somebody to come in and for a little bit of money, give us the capabilities and give us the ideas on what we have, and we'll take it from there.
Mr. Mayor.
But, I think we've come to the conclusion amongst us that we can't do it by ourselves. Okay?
Well, I think there's one more component to it, and that is, you mentioned the comprehensive plan. This side of 17 is very highly valuable property. So one of the components in the comprehensive plan is looking at what would be a more ideal use of this property, not, because government complexes don't generate any kind of revenue. There's other purposes that, may be more beneficial to the town, or at least serve the residents and visitors or whatever. So I think before any kind of decision is made, we need to be looking at what assumptions are underlying the project. Because that's usually a key component to eating this elephant one bite at a time. And looking at, not only building new and starting from the ground up, but also considering what we already have. And, like the mayor said, it was well over a year ago that council voted to build 15 to 2,000 square foot multi-purpose room similar to this one adjacent to the building across the street. That's what was decided, that's what, was budgeted, and then no action was taken to actually implement that. So, and of course, at that time, COVID hit and, we had a lot of drama going on. So we still have that, recommendation, council vote, on the table that hasn't been rescinded or anything else. But now we've got new opportunities, because at that time we said, well, we understand we need to demo the buildings because there's safety risk and so forth. But the plan was get that built over there, move this functionality over there, then this whole piece can go at the same time, reevaluate what's the best purpose for this, and look at, maintaining like our public safety corridor, because we pretty much own this block fronting Poplar for public safety. And there are some empty spaces there that we could possibly use to construct something. You've got the fenced in area, we've got the skateboard park, there are other opportunities to create, a public safety corridor, and that was discussed last year as well. So I guess my only point is, there are many other opportunities for this property that shouldn't be ignored. And it's going to be more of a timing issue on
the comp plan. Right?
What the comp plan comes back and recommends and what's accepted from that versus, what's the ideal footprint for, town operations. So I just feel we're a little premature, because I don't want to run down one rabbit hole or 3 rabbit holes when 2 come back and say, yeah, we don't want to do those anyway. It's a real balancing act, and it's going to hinge on what are the initial assumptions you want to put on this evaluation, and how blank piece of paper do you want to start with. We may have some restrictions, so it all goes into defining what those restrictions are, what those assumptions are. That really defines what your scope can be and where you focus your time.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, my thing was looking at it is there's our wants and our needs.
That's right.
Okay. We're a 1.9 mile town. In that town, you have businesses, homeowners, everybody lives there. Okay. Visitors come and go, but in the process, how much fire department do we need? How much police department do we need? And that's something I think we need to look at very closely in the process with our wants and our needs. Could Kenny use 5 more police officers? I don't know at this time. In that 10-year process of the plan, in that growth, we need to figure out all the available lots being full in 10 years. The businesses, what's this town going to look like? And when you get through looking at it, it may be that we're gonna have the same amount of police officers. If we're gonna have the same amount of police officers, and we got the same amount of everything, then how big does the police department really need to be? How much fire department do we need? You know, we can't be Horry County's all the time extraordinary backup best fire department. That doesn't cut it. You know, and because taxpayers pay for it, I just want to look at it as, is it truly what we need or is it I want? And you know, everybody would like, I won't, but you know, that don't pay the bills.
I agree.
So if we need 1,500 square feet, or do we need 1,000 square feet? Do we need 3,000 square feet? Or do we need it at all?
Right.
And I think that's something that needs to be looked at.
Well said.
I have a question on what's going on. My thought on this was that they had budgeted the money for a courtroom / chamber for us over on the other side of the road. But in the meantime, it came up that Kenny needs more room in the police department. Would it not be more feasible to build one building to suit that purpose than it would be build a building over there 2 years later or a year later, come over here and build another building? Would it not be, look at it as a cost wise, it would not be better to build one building to suit our needs over here instead of adding a building, then coming back and adding Kenny a building, adding the chief and Kenny a room in that building that they can have a command center for any disaster? Would it not be cheaper in the long run to do that than it would be try to put one over here later?
That's a great question. And typically the answer is yes. More 2 building pads is more exterior skin, is more wall, is more building. So typically, yes, there is economy in combining uses. I think we showed you guys a bunch of examples of where we've done that before. Yes. There has to be some pretty clear separations between functions when we do that. You know, police has to have its own part of the house that only they own, and there has to be a public zone, and then there's the zone for you folks. So we can do those very efficiently. So yes is the answer. It is not always, but a lot of the times a combination building is more cost effective than multiple buildings. That also can be driven by phasing though, right? Well, we have this much money that we can spend now. We need this much building. They don't equal each other. So we have to talk about phasing, and then you have to make priority decisions about which one of those pieces is more important to you. Public safety always wins, by the way. So.
Yeah.
Don't tell him that.
Sorry, it's true.
I think part of this is coming up with a plan because, again, when you let's look at our police and fire, and then I'm even gonna jump into public works. But, you know, our police department, even if they stay, then you decide you don't need any more road people in 5 years. The way the police department is run, the way the training is done and so on, is completely being overhauled as we speak.
Mm-hmm.
And there's gonna be a lot more in-house training, so they're gonna have to figure out how to train in-house, be it with other municipalities, other counties. I mean, that's something that the town has gotta be ready for. When you talk about our fire department, we're looking at ISO and response rates. We're also talking about intergovernmental agreements where we're letting other people use what we've got, because guess what? It saves us money when we have something local and we can use them.
That's right.
And those guys outside responding to us a lot more than we're responding to them. And you have to look at that. And I'm gonna use public works. What you have to remember, not too long ago in the company over there, we had a SWOT analysis for our citizens. And one of the big things they said that was a strength for the town was something that needs to continue is we have a police department, we have a fire department, and we have a public works department that belong to the town and is not run by any outside organizations. And your citizens were pretty, and you guys were there, they were pretty firm that we like this. And, you know, and they understand they gotta pay for it if they like it. I mean, that they were all pretty intelligent, and that came with it. But that was every table that was there said that. We like having our own police, fire, and public works. I mean, so that all has to be pulled into.
Well, we know as of right now, as this council knows, our police department is overcrowded right now. We had to take them out of the building beside of us, was not healthy. So they're overcrowded. So we know eventually that building's gotta be enlarged. It don't matter what we do over yonder, what we do over, that building's gonna have to be enlarged because this building's gotta go away. So we gotta consider that as a whole plan because they gonna have to have the room. I mean, if we wanna keep what we got, they've got to have that room somehow.
The other thing that you need to realize is that the police department, when it was built, had different functions.
Yes.
Okay, so the police department, when it was built, had its
And
own
holding.
jail, its own holding, its own everything.
That's all done.
And of course, when we gave that up, now they've moved into there, so you have people that are operating in an environment that is not, I mean,
Not very
you've got
flexible.
people that are operating in a jail cell, or, holding property in this firm instead of whatever, so it basically needs some reorganization. The other thing is, this civic center, which we will call it our, whatever.
Temporary home.
We use this just about every single day.
Oh, okay.
And this is not only where town council has their meetings, but all of our committees have their meetings. Plus, we still have it for the Lions Club and civic things. Plus, this is our full-time courtroom.
Right.
So we've moved all of these people into multifunctions. So basically, what I would like to see, and I don't know, council needs to come to this, but I would like to see, we know that we can't plan for the future without having a planner, okay, and doing. And you've heard the different concerns that we have, okay, on, let's keep it over and put it over on the other side. Let's put it over here. We need this and we need that, and it's multifunction. We need somebody to tell us what the recommendations, our economic recommendations and whatever to do that.
Sure.
So, I mean, that's why we called you back, because we don't have the ability to do it ourselves. And we need to find somebody who's capable of looking at all of our needs and taking everybody into consideration on that.
Good.
And
So now tell us how you can get that done.
And you've been highly recommended by the people that you met with and start with.
Okay, good.
So they highly recommended this group of people, so.
We made it
That's
this far. That's good.
Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
we just want to make sure that what we're getting matches what
What
we
we
really
want.
need.
Sure.
Not what we want,
What you need. And I'm gonna go back to that.
That's,
The bench, one of the things that we always do is we do growth analysis. So we're gonna look at your population over the last 10 years. And then we're gonna use that to create a curve. And then that's gonna tell us what we should think growth would be like. Now, you all are probably jurisdictionally limited, as you mentioned earlier, so that has a cap on it once you max out, unless you go more dense, which I don't see
We're not gonna-
you're gonna do. So we can actually, to your point, we can figure that out.
Right.
That's math. So that would be part of what we
But
would
see,
do.
that's what you do for a living.
Right.
Yeah,
We
and
can
it-
sit here and hypothesize all we
Right,
want.
right. So we'll put that, we'll do a quantitative analysis where we'll show you all what the numbers say that would be. On right sizing of departments, we do benchmarking all the time. We work with other communities exactly your size, all across North and South Carolina. So we can say, hey, here's 6 different examples of comps. And, that can compare your staff sizes, the way you organize your shifts, all of those types of things. We work with firms that do location analysis. You talk about your ISO rating and response times. Those are the ones that look at things and go, yeah, you've got one station, and one station's fine for your coverage area, but you've got a couple of pieces on the fringe that response times are challenges. So is there a strategic need for some service in another location? So that does, the benchmarking and the growth helps us right size and not overplan. And it gives us context for the decisions that we make as a group to make sure that we're doing exactly what I just said. Hopefully, those are ways that we manage some of those concerns.
One of the things that I liked when they spoke is, I'm going to talk about the police department, is, and I can't say who said it, but they talked about the building, maybe it does need to be bigger, maybe all the walls need to be knocked out and the offices need to be redesigned and set up differently. And it doesn't need to be bigger. And that's what they're gonna look at.
That's right. You mentioned it earlier. We don't necessarily have to be thinking everything is all new. If you said we need an option where we find out if we can renovate and meet our needs, we would do that. See, we can figure that out though when we do the space needs part first, because when we do the space needs, we'll know. We'll be like, well, their needs said, I'm gonna make up numbers, 10,000 and the building's 8. So that tells us right then, okay, we talk about an addition, can we repurpose the interior? And that's the way that we can look at any of these buildings that you all would choose for us.
Now, when we did this originally, we put out a request for qualifications.
Mhm.
And that's where we got you.
Right.
Okay. And we picked you out of the group, everybody that did that.
Good.
But we still don't know the cost.
Right.
So
So
that's my next
cost
question.
of
to you.
our, cost for our work to get you to this point, is that what you're asking? Like our
No.
fee proposal or cost for construction?
No, I'm not worried about the cost of construction. I'm talking for, we told you what
Do
we
the
want.
analysis.
We want you to do an analysis. We
Right.
want you to propose, what you think the best use for the properties are and how we should go about it. For you to do that for us, what's the cost to us?
Sure. So I came prepared to have that discussion today if you want to do that. And just to make sure that we're all on the same page, we have a civil engineer and a landscape architect. They are part of our team, that's ADC. They will be helping with the site analysis, those utility questions, that electrical service question that came up earlier. We have DWG, this is our mechanical engineer on the team. They're also electrical and plumbing. So we will look at the types of services that you would be needing in either scenario. So you won't be guessing. Someone mentioned the service over there being limited. So that's part of the study. We have a cost estimator because when we get to the end of our work with you all, we're going to give that to them because that's what they do. They look at work all over this area. And actually the guy who we're using resided here for many years, Rocky Harris. So he knows the construction costs in this market and he'll say, okay, this is what option A costs to be over there. This is what option B costs to stay here but reuse some buildings. And this is what option C costs, which is if you did all new over here. And I'm making those options up. That might not be the option you want.
Right.
But then that way, again, back to what I said about informed decisions. That way you all can say, okay, here's this vision we worked out together. It meets everyone's needs. We all agree on that, needs, not wants. And here's those numbers. And so that way, again, you all will have those in your hands to make decisions.
That looks like exactly what we're looking
And if that's
Well,
what
but-
What would it cost us to get there?
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
So-
that's a forecast of construction.
Yes.
Your services to get us the plan,
Sure.
you know, typically these kind of contracts have a not to exceed value.
Yeah.
You know, based on your experience to do this amount of work, it takes
40,000.
250 hours or whatever,
Sure.
you know?
Yeah.
So usually there's a not to exceed number that, you know, when you're reaching 75% of that number, you provide notification and we
Okay.
look at, you know, where do we go from here? Is it worth going forward? Blah, 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 whatever. So, you know, before going forward, in understanding, you know, I also have a couple concerns about the growth evaluation and I don't want to duplicate effort with what the comprehensive plan is doing. So
Sure.
I think some of this needs to be reviewed with the team leading the comprehensive plan as well.
Sure. No, we don't want to duplicate
Because
either.
I want you to
know
work
first side.
together. I don't want you to work, you know.
We do that all the time. Absolutely.
Yeah, so I think, you know, if we come up with it and just for sake of argument, let's say, yes, this is the plan we want to do. These are the exact steps we want
Mhm.
to get to the point of having that quote of here's option 1, 2, and 3, and here's what the construction cost of those going to be.
Mhm.
Instead of the total lump sum of TBD, we need, you know, a
You want
not to exceed
Hourly,
number.
you want to do the whole thing hourly, not to exceed? Is that how you all want to do it?
Well, but I mean, that's probably the only way to get to the next point in this without a real specifically designed, this is the project we want planned. Right now, we're doing the evaluation to figure out what project we want planned.
Right.
So to get to that point of defining what project we need to plan, you know, what's the not to exceed number
Right.
to define what the plan may be?
So based on talking with our team and looking at that scope of work and delivering all those things that we've talked about today, our number starting with is $40,000. That is our fee for that entire effort. And that includes effectively everything that we just talked about. The location analysis, if we end up doing that for fire, will be an ad service. That's not included. And I will also say, we have a surveyor on our team, but we're assuming that the master planning on this site, y'all have a survey over there. I have the drawing.
Right.
I don't know if you have one for here.
It's probably old, but
And so we would do that off of GIS, and there's plenty of information that's available. Then once you decide what you're doing, then you engage the surveyor in the next round. And it's close. I don't want to say close enough. It's plenty of information to make informed decisions without spending the money for a survey. I don't know how that number resonates with you all, but that's what our team is prepared. And if that sort of falls within your parameters, then we're prepared to finalize the proposal and execute. Interesting, the not to exceed amount. Typically, we do these in a lump sum.
okay.
But if that's something that you all are interested in, we're happy to do the contract set up that way, and we can notify you. I mean, each one of our invoices will have a percentage complete on it, so you would always know sort of where we stood against that total.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
in looking at your proposal, at any point, do you involve the citizens in a questionnaire or whatever, survey, just to see what they want? Because, I mean, we work for them.
Yes, sir.
And if they want to be over there, then we're going to be over there. If they want to be over here, then we're going to be over here. If we know what they want, because right now we don't know what they want. I think we've heard some of it,
right?
But you only hear from a very few. And we found that the surveys, they did a survey for the pier and got like 800 responses.
Mm-hmm.
We get 20.
Right.
So I'd rather have the 800.
Sure, so would I. So yes, great question. We can engage the public at however you all choose to do that. We can have sort of these listening sessions where we come and we let it be open-ended and we let people sort of share their thoughts. We can do a little work up front and kind of prepare a presentation to have guided questions. Do you want to be over there or over here, right? Whatever those questions are that we would determine. We also do surveys, and that can go out. It can be on Facebook. We can do a Google Forms. I mean, we have those as interactive PDFs, and they all come with sort of self-instructions on how you can do that. So, and we also can mail out hard copies to those that don't really feel so inclined with technology. So I think we can customize that part of the process. It really, I will say, if we want to engage the public and if we want for those results to be in the design, it needs to happen early in the process, right? Because that begins to create some drivers.
But wouldn't we, as council, would we not want the public, after we once get an analysis from these people? Because all they're going to do now is give us the cost of what it would do when they come back to present that. Would that not be sufficient for the town at that point? Because we've not put up no design at that time. No design, no buildings. We're just getting cost-wise of what it would be to do this.
So that is a great point. Then you would be, then as opposed to an open-ended conversation, which in a public forum can be challenging because you're going to inherently receive requests that you can't deliver.
Yes.
So sometimes doing it this way, as you just suggested, and saying, here are the 3 options that we're contemplating. No decisions have been made. We want your input. You know what we know. And that way.
And that's what they did on the pier.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in 2000, the end of 16, most of 17, they had probably 10 or 12 public workshops on the different alternatives and what they meant and what they would cost and, you know, the forecast of them. So I would foresee, you know, doing the evaluation and then having the public workshop of here's our alternatives on how we move forward into the future and why, and, you know, leave it more as a communication.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can put out, you know, the survey if we really want to go to that next step and say, okay, which one would you vote for? You know, but like you said, it gets a bit into the mob rule kind of thing. And, you know, you create a little bit of havoc, you know, because you get this one, then you get this one, and then they start fighting. And,
that does happen.
you know, you don't want to encourage too much of that, but, you know, a simple 2-way communication about something,
sure,
you know, that's probably better suited than, you know, letting them define what we want now. Because like Mr. Drake said, we want to focus more on what we need not
Yeah.
what we want.
Because if you go out and ask the
We can always
community-
add what we want.
community,
They're gonna want more.
they may
than you can
want,
deliver.
but they don't realize that costs.
That's
So you need to weigh it out and determine if we need it, we need it. And if we can justify it, we can justify it. That's all I'm saying.
That's a great point. We've done them both ways. So
Yeah.
I'm very comfortable with that direction. Honestly,
And we're
that
about 90
direction's more targeted and it's easier.
And there's very few lots, left in Surfside to begin to build a house anyway.
That's what I'm waiting on.
So I'm,
You're the only one that
again,
has
whoever
it.
your planning consultant is, we're happy to plug in with them as well, who's doing your comp plan.
Business is 17, that's it.
And your comment about, tax accessible property, we have that discussion everywhere.
Yeah.
A lot of times, the civic buildings are in the center of town, which also is some of your most valuable property. So then you're making decisions about, hey, this is our statement, this is where we need to be, this is our place, and that's important. Or, wow, we recognize that there are other things that could bring in revenue, and we need to hold those things up together and think about them. Those are the decisions that we'll have to navigate as well.
When we looked at your pictures that you had last time, and they were beautiful.
Okay, good. Thank you.
But I guess one of my fears is that, a lot of town buildings, and they do this for a lot of towns, they want some place like the Taj Mahal.
Taj Mahal, I knew that was coming, I was about to say it. Yeah.
And I don't personally see that. I see some that is a lot, but really works for the area, but to blend in and go for the area.
Well said. And our mission is not to come in here and create a Taj Mahal. We hear this phrase every time we do this, back to what you need versus what you want. There is a part at the end of that you said that's also important, right? Because it needs to look like it belongs here.
Right.
I mean, our catchphrase is architecture of place. We believe that every building you design has to belong to the place where it resides. And if otherwise, you're kind of doing it for yourself. And civic buildings need to blend in, but it also needs to look like a civic building. And that doesn't mean it has to be expensive or fancy. It just means it has a little bit of extra attention to the way that it's massed and looks. So our mission is not to come in here and create a Taj Mahal at all. It's actually quite the opposite of that. We want to be efficient, but meet the needs of the different programs that are there.
Now, for this $40,000 assessment, what is the time limit that it takes you to do that?
This is typically something that we would execute within 3 to 4 months. I think that's what we had in our initial proposal. I know you all said you have a 6-month kind of thought on getting through finishing up your pier project. So if we started on this in the beginning of next year, and ran that course, by the time you all finished your pier project, you would have sort of our study in hand. And then if all that works out timing wise, you just decide what to do.
But we also want to, the results of this, we want to put in our comprehensive plan because that's due next year too.
Okay, so what is your schedule for finishing that up? Is there
We got a whole year.
Okay. So if we deliver it in the spring, then that's going to be plenty of time to be integrated within whatever they're planning after. Okay, so that's about the schedule, the 4 months.
All right, next I'll ask the fire department, the police department, and public works if they have anything that they'd like to say in reference to any of this.
I guess I can start. I do want to clarify something. As far as a GIS analysis of response times, we don't need that in the scope.
Good.
We're going to be one station.
I assumed that. I just
Our
didn't know.
response times are no issue. The one thing from the scope that's not in here, and we mentioned it, is the Emergency Operations
EOC,
Center.
sure.
Which could be part of the overall, whatever the building structure is going to look like. And when I read through the scope here, and I had some questions, but they were already answered, is the bulk of this discussion with the advisory team is task 1 and 2.
That's right.
I mean, the rest of this really comes from those high-level discussions at those 2 tasks.
That is true. Those are the drivers, what we would call or identified after those first 2 tests. That really kind of outlines the pathway that we're going to be taking through. Yes, sir.
Right, and then Ms. Keating and I, because I had a question about the money piece, because you had broken down in the sum of the commencing work into each individual role, but there was a to be determined, that you answered that question.
Well, I mean, those were our hourly rates that we always have on our contract. And I think we didn't ever want to put a fee to it without understanding what the scope is that you all wanted. So that's really why we sort of did it that way. We wanted to get that scope language out there because it at least starts the conversation about what it is that we're anticipating.
Yes, sir. So the $40,000 includes all tasks, 8 tasks.
Yes. Yes, and I'll say this too, EOC wasn't necessarily part of what we talked about to begin with, but clearly we can look at that as part of this within those parameters as well. We've done a bunch of those, and I know all of them. I will say EOC and police too, that puts you in what's called a category 4 in our world, which is the, shall we say, the most robust structural systems. And that's just required because those buildings have to remain operational, and you all know this regardless of what conditions may be thrown your way. So EOCs and fire and police stations are inherently slightly more expensive than town halls or chamber spaces for that reason. But again, it's something that we can get into once we identify the master plan directions and we can share that detail then. Any other questions, Chief?
That's it for me, thank you.
John?
Are you guys CALEA certified or is that?
We are not, but as part of the Act 218 that was just passed, the
Right.
governor signed, it's going, we will essentially have to become
That's what I.
accredited in order to do that. So we're gonna, that's one reason, and I appreciate Bill bringing that up, is the training piece is a big part for us because we have nowhere to train right now. We actually used to have to go down to Karate World down the street to be able to get somewhere to do our defensive tactics training. So the building was built in the early 90s when the police department had 12 officers and it was tight then. So we're really crammed in there. So I just thank you to the mayor and council for bringing this forward and getting the ball rolling. It really means a lot. But I think the needs assessment, those conversations will be evident with the situation that we have next week.
It'll all surface, because part of that is us walking through your buildings as well and getting to understand them and the constraints that you have operationally.
I agree with Brent and I've had numerous conversations. I agree with the way this is moving forward. I think you all are on the right track. It doesn't really help Public Works on Sandy Lane, unfortunately, but I can live with that because this is the process we need to go through.
I mean, if you need us to add Public Works as a layer, it's another $5,000 if that's something that you want us to do.
There's really no room to build out over there, so
okay.
Someday maybe a lot will be available next to us.
Okay. And your ISO rating currently is?
It's going to be regressed to a 2. It's currently a 1, but
you're a 1.
We'll go to a 2.
Okay.
Close, and that's when we said.
Is there anybody else that has any questions or comments?
Well, just one, as far as next steps. And I'll just throw it out there. What I assume our next step would be is to go through this scope analysis, make sure it's accurate, reflecting what everybody needs. Give you one final chance. Is it 40? Is it 45? Is it 38? Is it 42 and a half? Whatever.
Okay.
I'll give you one final chance before we actually write out a contract and sign on the bottom line. Is that not correct?
That's fine.
Okay.
We're happy to do that. And what we'll do is modify that document in front of you to relate to the conversation we've had today. I think it's pretty close. I think there's a couple of things we'll add just based on the conversations that we had today. I'll specifically, add the EOC piece to make sure that language is referenced. I don't think fire is actually specifically referenced in there either, so.
Well, in alignment with the comp plan and
yes,
those growth forecasts.
And the growth pieces, yeah, I'm
growth
just change the growth language to say to coordinate with the comprehensive plan that's.
Right, and the growth of the town.
Yes.
And how many people live here, how many people come here, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'm assuming that they're going to be looking at your tourist population too as part of that, which is, I would assume, a huge component to this as well.
Yeah, still within the 1.9 miles.
Right. I mean, they require services too when they're here, even though they don't live here.
Okay, and then once that's finalized and we're ready to award the contract, then that will have to come back to council for a council vote because it exceeds the limits of authority, so.
Well, hopefully conversations like this will make that part easier. We've kind of gotten to a scope that I think you all are nodding about. I think the number is relatively reasonable based on your reaction. So hopefully that's a process that we can get through, and then we'll be ready to start whenever you all have a contract.
Okay, so just knowing holidays are coming up and so forth, we should shoot for at least the first council meeting in February to approve the purchase order, approve the contract. If we can get it all done by then.
That's in your court. We can be ready before that. That's completely up to you all.
Why don't we do it in January?
Good, January, do it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just thinking we have one more meeting in December. We've got a lot of things going on for the holidays. We may want to take, January, or at least first couple weeks of January to define the scope. I'm just saying a target should be the 1st of February, whether it's the last of January or the first meeting in January, so be it. I'm just saying, establishing expectations,
That's fine.
that by the 1st of February, we should have it all done. And, make sure everybody's on that same schedule. The sooner the better, but no later than.
That's what I was about to say. If it's after that, it won't be on our account. How about that?
So do you feel better this meeting than you did last?
I do. I do. And, part of it is the fact that, sometimes when you're giving a presentation, we don't have the chance to interact. And, today has been very nice because we had a chance to interact. I thank you for sharing the context and for each of you kind of sharing kind of where you live on this. What you all are sharing is exactly what we see in the other municipalities. So you have the same concerns, again, these are, you all have parameters that we're familiar with that we can help you navigate, and you're going through the right steps to make an informed decision. So I think for what it's worth, we're excited. We love doing these. This is kind of what gets us out of bed. So we're ready to get started when you all are. But as follow-up, I'll come up with a revised proposal, get that final version in your hands. And then when you all determine which meeting it's going to be reviewed and approved at, let us know and we'll be ready to start.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, what are we supposed to redo between now and January sometime? It's just look at the tasks?
We're supposed to be developing the scope, right?
Yeah, define the scope of work.
Okay.
Make sure the
Which is pretty close to
definition is comprehensive to what Kenny needs and Rob needs and John needs. And
Well, Kenny, you mentioned, for instance, the thing at the water park. If they turned that into housing, it would increase our population by 27-30%, right? Well, I think that ain't gonna happen. So,
we don't have room for 30%.
but that not happening would keep our levels the same as they are now. Other than a little bit of growth in the neighborhoods that build new houses, maybe a lot gets divided, 2 whole houses come down, something like that.
So you may be looking at a couple of different models is what I think I hear you saying, because you would need to know what it would take to address that if it's.
No, that's not gonna happen.
Not going to
It's
happen.
not
Okay,
gonna
good.
happen. I know it's not gonna happen.
Okay,
That's why I want to go ahead and let you know that ain't gonna happen.
I misheard. Thank you.
I don't see that happening in the shape or form. But the
Well, I think
population,
everybody's had a chance to talk and everybody seems to be on the same page, so
yeah,
we'll look forward to seeing, or talking to you in the first part of
Next year.
January or February and
sounds good.
get this worked out.
Thank you all. Thank you all for a great meeting today. I
Thank you
really
very much.
enjoyed
Thank you
it.
for coming.
We're looking forward to working with you.
Thank you.
I look forward to it too.
Yeah.
Hope they give y'all a lunch break. Is somebody else up after me?
Yep, we got
Mr. Mayor,
More.
Mr. Mayor, do you want to call a recess before the next presenter?
What time's the next one?
1 o'clock.
So you got food in it, all right?
I was getting to that.
Oh.
All right, with that, I need a motion to adjourn.
Make a
No,
motion to-
no.
Or just declare a recess.
Recess.
Declare a recess. So we're at recess until 1 o'clock. How you doing?
Who seconded?
I did.
So what?
Who first?
I second.
He can second.
So Kenny,
This conference will now be recorded.
okay, it's now 12:47 and we will come back out of recess into the general or special council meeting. Next thing on the agenda in business is C, which is the Surfside Beach Youth Sports Association. So we're here today to talk about the Huckabee Field and what our expectations are and what we plan on doing in the future. So if you'd like to come up.
How's everybody doing? Everybody got a full belly? Good?
You got us on a happy note.
I didn't say that. Yeah, right. Because we brought those cookies early, make sure you guys had something good in you. So I just want to introduce myself. I'm Brian Pedrick. I'm the president of Surfside Beach Youth Sports Association. Brad Crispin is our vice president and Bentley Thurlow is our recording secretary. We met maybe a month or so ago with Mr. Shanahan and then the mayor and just felt like we needed to talk to you guys because it sounds like there's a whole bunch of misinformation. And we want to make sure that you guys understand where we're at and what we're doing and make sure we're all on the same page. Because we feel like we have a great opportunity to continue serving the community here. So just wanted to tell you a little bit about, put a little PowerPoint presentation together. If you guys have any questions as we're going through it, you can do it. And then I got a little handout for you afterwards. We can, you can all have it. It'll give most of this information in there as well, so you guys have it for your records. So talk a little bit about Surfside Beach Youth Sports. So we've been in operation for 10 years. This is our 10th season. We're a volunteer-based board that basically we handle softball and baseball at Huckabee spring and fall seasons is what we do. Each season, each year, we have over 600 boys and girls play softball and baseball at Huckabee Park. So our range is from, I've got on here 4 to 15, but really 3-year-olds play on the T-ball. So one of the first things we make sure we're all clear is we receive $0 from the town of Surfside to function. I know that we've heard some rumors that you guys are giving us a check, and we've never received a penny from the town of Surfside to operate our functions there. We do pay the lights, the electric, the water, any utility bill for that facility and for Martin Park as well, but we pay the utilities for that, for the site. When the lights are on, we're paying for it. When the water's running the sprinkler fields, we're paying for it. Just so make sure everybody understands that that's all coming out of our pocket through our recreation fund. We pay the bills through registration and sponsors from local businesses. No public funds. The county doesn't give us anything to operate. I don't know, how many of you guys have been to Huckabee? Can I ask that question? Okay, so you guys, well, I know a few of you have been there for opening day and thrown out some pitches and stuff like that. So you guys can see how full that facility is. You see all the banners from the local businesses up on the fences, helping to support that.
Brian, have you appealed to the county Parks and Recreation for any funding?
We have.
Since you support,
So we did,
county as well?
and we asked, Horry County Council, one of the local council members. And we were told that the town currently gets a fund every year from Horry County. I don't know if he said it was $15,000 or $18,000 to support recreation. I don't know that, I don't know that, obviously I'm not, but that's what I was told is that, they recognize that, that there's obviously county kids that played in the parks too, but, so they did have a stipend.
But you're using the name Surfside, which is big time around here, but it's only incorporated in that little bit of land over there.
Sure, yep, yeah.
So
And-
that's something we can confirm because, that needs to add into the evaluation that the county Parks and Rec is giving the town of Surfside, let's just call it $15,000 to help with the maintenance and the availability of the field. That's a significant component.
Yeah.
They should be providing you money for the mass
They
area.
always have. I don't know. It's been years since I followed up on it, but Diana would know the answer to that.
I think that's who Bill would call.
Yeah, they still do. I know they stopped it for a while, and I don't know if it started back up again. I assume it did. Diana would know the answer.
Yeah, and I don't know. I just, that's just the
But
information.
y'all don't receive anything from the local county aspect? They should be.
Yeah, I mean,
Because it's more than just Surfside Beach.
yeah, I agree. And so for us on our end, and I know that's one of the things that we've heard, so we're all clear. 5 or 6 years ago, we had a new council in town and they came in and we were here doing the same scenario then. And kind of to my disbelief, they had no idea that they thought they were paying the light, the one council member, the lights were on all the time, we're paying that bill and, so they had no idea what they were doing. But once we got into it, we don't have anything to do. We didn't buy this, this was done the town years ago, all we're doing is trying to keep what's there. And I know I don't live in the town encumbrance, I'm a block away, but I'll tell you this, that Surfside Beach is my home. When we go to baseball practice or games, when we get done playing baseball, we come in town and we eat, or we go get gas and, we do those things. So, there is still some viability with this thing being, so, and that's why we keep Surfside Beach. Our kids, all of our hats have the Surfside Beach S on them. If you can go anywhere in town or schools, or we go to baseball tournaments in other states and we see kids wearing those hats. So, there is some viability with that. Want to talk a little bit about some improvements that we made through the contract with the town. The town is supposed to maintain the facilities. That's what the contract has stated for 10 years before I got here, but that's just what the contract stated. Over the past 4 years or 3 or 4 years, obviously you guys have a lot going on. We got a pier that's going to cost a fortune, and there's a lot of things going on. So what we've tried to do is we've tried to go out and get extra funds, try to make upgrades, try to do things to help promote the property, try to keep it running. We haven't asked, since Debbie Ellis left, we haven't asked anybody for anything. And John's the guy, he'll tell you, when something's broke, we try to fix it. The batting cages at Huckabee, if you can see on the left, those batting cages were just dirt, the kids always were filthy dirty from the dirt on it. We had 33 yards of concrete poured. We put a third net in the middle of that facility. We put AstroTurf down, and we put LED lights in that, and we did all that between fundraising, local donations, and it was all volunteers doing that work. So there's kind of the after pictures of the batting cages. Like I said, we got all that stuff either donated or paid for it, or some additional funds. So a couple things there. There were originally 3 fields at the facility, and then there were 2 fields at the end of the property that the younger kids played on. They were always grass. So over the past year or so, we rented equipment, and we dug out the last 2 fields, and we put clay down, had clay delivered, and had it spread out. We did that. We dug it ourselves. We asked John and his team. We were able to do that. So we made 2 fields instead of the kids playing on grass, so that they knew where to run to the bases. We also got the fencing and the poles to make backstops. John and his team installed the poles for us and put the fencing up for backstops.
So John, your guys mark the field, you draw the lines?
Yeah, we drag and line.
That's part of
the
your
fields.
maintenance of the
Yeah,
field?
every day, that's part of the maintenance, mowing the grass and all that.
Okay.
All 3 fields, the lips between the infield and the outfield were becoming dangerous for ground balls. The rec, we rented equipment and we cleaned all those lips up. Took us over a couple months, and we got all 3 fields completed to get rid of the lips to make the field safe. We brought water hoses to 2 of the 3 fields so we can use when it's dusty to keep the fields wet. Again, we pay for the water on that. We bought portable mounds. One of the things that we had seen over the time was John's guys having to maintain the pitching mounds. So what we did was we went out as a rec and we bought portable pitching mounds with some donations and some extra things that we did. Over $5,000, and that eliminated John's guys from having to try to work on the mounds. So one less thing that the town had to do. We've replaced the window on Field 1 press box. It was cracked and leaking. One of the things the town in the contract from the beginning was that the town incorporated maintaining the facility, lights and things like that. John, you can attest, we haven't asked for a thing from town. We went to Santee Cooper, and we've had Santee Cooper at that facility 7, 8 times now with 4, 5, 6 bucket trucks working on lights, replacing lights, ballast. The rec, we went out and got some extra donations. We bought some additional ballast and some light bulbs. Again, just trying not to come to the town and asking for issues. We know you guys have things, and we're trying to we're trying to do more than our part to try to show that we're trying to help out with costs to the town. We've partnered with the Myrtle Beach Pelicans for the last 5 years for our spring opening day. And I know some of you guys have been there for opening day. If you haven't ever been there, you guys need to come see it. It's awesome to see that many kids out there and what it's worth to those kids. We've brought in professional athletes to Huckabee for free clinics and meet and greet sessions. We've had major league players, Yankee pitcher Adrian Hernandez. He has done multiple camps there for the community. Reggie Sanders, who was a local, he came and he's done some stuff there. And Leo Mazzoni, who was a pitching coach for the Atlanta Braves, he's been there and spent 2 or 3 hours telling stories to the kids and answering questions and talking about, how sports relates to life. We've also held some things to help the community, clothing drive. There was a family that house burned down the street. They lost everything. We had a clothing drive, got them some things so that they could, continue to operate as a family. We've done, raised money, tried to do concessions to raise additional money for things that we needed around the park, the L screens and some things like that. Over the past couple of years, we've dedicated our seasons to play for a cause. And unfortunately for us in the last 2 seasons, we've had kids in our family of Surfside Beach Youth Sports Association that have had issues. They both had 2 different kids had cancer. One of them was a young man named Vinny, and almost lost Vinny. But he came back. We dedicated the season to him. All the coaches wore shirts that said victory for Vinny. He come out on opening day and actually got to hit a ball off the tee. Hadn't been out of the house or on a baseball field in a long time, so it was really awesome to see that. One of the family members of our association, one of their daughters had ovarian cancer, and all of our coaches this past season wore Rachel Rocks in support of that. We've been out to help those causes. We've done.
Brian, if I could,
Yeah.
it was a year ago today that she rang the bell, so.
Oh, nice.
Oh, wow. It was actually Bentley's daughter.
She's in Charleston right now, and they just did the follow-up, and everything is looking perfect.
Nice.
That's good. We've done multiple beach sweeps. With our groups, we try at least once a year to go out and meet on a Saturday, go down the beach and just have the kids walk down the beach and pick up trash. Just feel like something, we do as part of our part in our community. So our kids, we wear Surfside Beach Youth Sports. We wear Surfside Beach on everything we do. So we play in, we're associated with Dixie Youth Baseball, and that's, a South organization that has baseball. We've had teams go as far as the World Series. We've won the World Series in Alabama twice as an organization, which is pretty awesome. And 2 years ago, we had our 12U team. They won the district championship. And it's hard to see on this screen, but all those kids are wearing Surfside Beach shirts, and we were all through this state playing games. So pretty cool to see. We hold baseball and softball tournaments at that park. We don't. We lease the park out, or travel teams come in and play. They have travel tournaments there. You go by there on a weekend when there's a USSSA or a Top Gun baseball tournament there. That park's lined from front to back with cars, and if you haven't walked through there and look at the tags from Virginia, North Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee. Those people are coming here to play baseball. They're coming to Huckabee and playing baseball. They're not staying in North Myrtle. They're staying here. They're staying, I talked to Mill Servant a few times over the past couple of years about the pickup when we have travel tournaments of, rentals and things like that. It's truly a viable deal. North Myrtle Beach is committed, and it's in a slide later, but they've got a big park. I don't know how many of you guys have been to North Myrtle Beach Sports Complex, but it's a huge facility. They've committed $31 million to improve that facility and add more fields. Sports tourism is $180 million a year along the Grand Strand, and that's from WMBF, not from me. So these fields bring people here. These fields, they allow us additional tax money and additional revenue. Myrtle Beach built Market Commons. They didn't do it because they just wanted some extra space, to look pretty. They did it because they're making money on it. So, and that's something over the past 3 or 4 years we've tried to do to show the town that, hey, you know what, it's more than just, for recreational baseball. We're also trying to bring in stuff to the town. So we continue to make improvements to the park above and beyond our contractual obligations with the town. And we feel like, at some point, we know there's cost involved, with doing this thing. At the end of the day, there's a park grant on that property. And that park grant is still 12 years in the tooth. So that park grant states that it has to be used for recreation. Now, whether you all use it for baseball and softball, or you make walking trails or whatever, you still have to cut the grass, you still have to maintain the facility. That's just real stuff. I live behind that park, so, the grass ain't gonna grow 10 feet tall. But, there's certain things y'all are gonna have to do. What is the cost of dragging a line in the fields for 13 or 14 weeks a season? I'm sure it's a cost. And we're trying to do everything we can to help sustain that cost and to help show that we're trying to be a part of the community and help out. But, we're looking at you guys we came and asked about the town. Mr. Shanahan asked about what, he wanted to renegotiate the contract, or you guys were asking about renegotiating the contract. You guys get our books every year. Diane King thoroughly goes through our books every season, and there's no money there. We don't make, okay, Bill.
In reference to the books, and she goes through them every year, and I've got the numbers from 2013 to 2021, because 22 is not done yet. And if you look at the total numbers, what I did is I took total income, and then I subtracted total expenses, and then I even added concessions in there to be fair.
Yeah.
And that, these are my numbers off that form. But if you add out the numbers of subtracting everything since 2013, you all have made $28,776. And you divide that out by the number of years, you make $3,000 a year as an average. That goes into, which is why you hold all those events, because there's no way $3,000 is going to pay for everything that's done.
There's no, there's no cash cow with that. We do it to sustain this league and this community and these 600 kids. I got a flyer here, I'll give you some all, but we did a little research, and again, remember, we're all full-time workers. But we did look through, and 98% of the players in our league live within a 5-mile radius of Huckabee. Now, I know that radius may not be to the ocean necessarily, but if you guys don't think that when those cars leave Huckabee, they're not making a right to come to the beach to get gas or go to dinner, it's just viable, just so you guys know. Couple other things that, we had talked about that I know we had heard a couple, like when we rent the park out for the tournaments, we don't get gate fees. That's what the tournament people do. We don't have the ability to draw teams from all over the country and every play they do it. So we're getting $100 to $125 a day per field. So we're not making it, we're not really making any money. We have volunteers there all weekend to help clean up and do those things. We're doing it so we can bring people here. That's the only reason we do those tournaments, is so we can try to provide, tourism, and additional tourism to the town and our community.
I'd like to make a statement. I have a grandson who's played on Huckabee for the last 3 years, and I live here in the town of Surfside, and every time I've been out, and I go to most all the games he plays out there, when I go out there, y'all do a great job with what's going on out there, and I appreciate what you're doing. We're looking at it as a cost-wise, what it's costing us to do that. But overall, I think y'all doing a good job out there. And like I said, my grandson, who I live here in Surfside, played out there for the last 3 years.
Yeah.
And I'm out there, so I know that what's going on. We all know what's going on out there.
I appreciate that, and it's more than just necessarily the kid that doesn't live in town. There's other people.
Brian, you said you do the spring and fall. Does that mean there's a certain amount of, what I'll call it, downtime or vacant time throughout the summer that maybe the town should start considering utilizing that property for its own events of some sort?
Yeah, so
it kind of depends on what the grant may say.
Yeah, we're open to helping out. We've offered in the past on multiple occasions, whether it's a kickball league for adults or for, and I know Bill brought that up, or maybe the mayor did. I don't know what the last time we met, but we're open to any of that. We softball league. Yeah, so, I mean, we have kids softball, but yeah, if we,
Adult.
us, I mean, we're open to any of that. Obviously, the challenges are that, there's, the cost of umpires is just
Well,
ludicrous.
but I
But
was
we can,
thinking
we
more-
can do a restriction, I mean, y'all are welcome to do whatever you guys want there. I know there's this misnomer that we hold the keys to the gates and lock yous all out, and we don't, in fact, we get locked out a lot more than you guys do, I can assure you.
Well, because I'm
So-
thinking more like, you hear the promotion now for the art walk. We're doing a couple events down in Memorial Field. Maybe we get a better draw in demographics if we take all of our art vendors and we have an arts in the park kind of thing.
Sure.
And,
Yeah.
do that on a weekend that, you're not using the field or something.
And that allows us to maybe open a concession stand and sell
Well,
$30 worth of water. So believe me, we're,
Right.
finding volunteers to sell those 30 bottles is another story. But yeah, there are things that we're completely up to. We're not, and when Debbie was here, and, this is probably a little bit of everybody's fault. When Debbie was here, I felt like we had a really good relationship and the communication was really going. When Debbie left, I think things kind of, people took jobs and had things going on, and the least of your guys worried at the time was that. And
Well, we need to reinvigorate.
yeah, but we even talked to, so Bentley has had some ideas for a year or so about, he has some people that we're talking about maybe doing a barbecue contest or festival there at the park. You got that big parking lot, bring people in and let them do it. Those kind of things where we could charge $2 to get in or something, with the tournament.
I think that would be
just have to
great.
do that. But, we're open to any of those ideas, really. For me, I mean, my kids have aged out of the rec. They don't play in the rec anymore. But, Brad's got kids, Bentley's got grandkids. We got people, to me, it's important for this community. I put, along with these guys, we put a ton of hours in there as volunteers. And it's important for me to build good citizens, as these kids are growing up. The last time we had this meeting with the council in the town was at a council meeting, and it was the night that they gave Hunter Renfro keys to the town. And, I really thought it was ironic, because obviously Hunter's got great parents, but, sports builds character, right? And nowadays, and I don't know what the number is. I don't know what you guys spend on dragging a line in the fields. Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, we've been collecting numbers. We spend about, for utilities, we spend $3,000 a year approximately.
So what would the utilities be?
That's for the time. That's pretty much what we get reimbursed for.
Oh, you get reimbursed?
We pay,
I'm
we
sorry.
pay for all the
Yeah,
utilities.
Okay, we'll leave that
that's
alone.
back to them
Okay.
from Diana.
All right, but the manpower, talking 5 hours per day, ground wages, just during the season, it's 35 weeks at $737.50. So the total cost for the manpower we use is $25,812. And then we spend approximately $12,000 on materials and supplies. So we're talking $37,000, right at $38,000 a year.
But now we just found out the county gives us almost $12,000 of that. So basically, the contribution from the town is about 25 grand.
Yes.
And then
to
on
keep
top
it
of that,
Up and running.
on top of that, that's including cutting the grass, right? So
Correct,
the
yeah.
grass needed to get cut, whether we're there or not, the grass is gonna have
It's a
to get
sunk
cut.
cost.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's still a lot of money, you know what I mean? But it's not 25, I don't think it's 25,000, because if you're cutting the grass either way,
Just to be fair, the Horry County recreation money is to be applied to all of our parks, not just our
Yeah, that's true.
recreation in general.
Yeah.
So playground equipment and Fuller would count, Old
Right.
Children's Park, it's not just.
But you're saying we have to cut the grass.
Anyway.
But if that sense, if there wasn't nothing going on there, we wouldn't cut it every day.
well, you used to cut it every day.
Well,
Uh,
according to what they're saying, they have manpower there every day for that time.
We're not cutting the grass every day, but there's the things going on every day, between repairs and fixing things, irrigation,
Empty the
lighting, restrooms. I have the parking lot being seal coated, over the next couple of months. There's always something going on that town staff has to be involved.
But, yeah, and again, I worked in a lot of places. Recreation does not normally bring direct results. Where you see it is the indirect results. The people, as you said, making that right turn and going up and getting gas, the people going to restaurants, people going to hotels, the money coming in when they have them tournaments, because a lot of them people stay in this area too. You know, you don't expect recreation to make money. Our parks don't make any money, other than after they finish listening to music on Sunday, then they go off and have lunch or dinner someplace. And you're not, the only time I've ever seen people actually make the money was a golf course, and that's because we hired an outside agency to run it. They were cheap.
You know, the money, you know, 20-some thousand and whatever that number, you know, that number is, you know, at some point, I feel like there's a moral obligation as us, as adults, to say, those kids are gonna be good kids, and they're gonna wear a Surfside hat, and when they're 18 or 20 or 25 and they're looking for a place to live, you guys were all kids, you remember playing sports or playing baseball or doing whatever, and those things were great memories for you. Those kids are gonna come back and buy houses in Surfside, or they're gonna do those things. And we're in a really tough time with kids right now. The things that these kids do and get into, it's not like the old days. You didn't go drink out of a hose and then ride your bike down to wherever. These kids nowadays, to not keep them involved, there's a huge cost. And whatever money we're gonna save by not dragging a line in fields, you're gonna put into the police department, because if they're not throwing baseballs, they're gonna throw rocks. And I mean, that's just real stuff. And again, I know there's a cost, and we're saying we'll do what we can to help, but,
Mr. Mayor. Brian, I'm one of the ones that asked to look at this, because everywhere I was involved in youth sports for 30 years, years before I had kids, while I had kids. Now they've all grown and lived elsewhere, but everywhere I was, we mowed the grass. The organization mowed the grass and took care of things. There were certain things that the county did or the city did. They put the grass seed down, fed the grass seed, watered the grass seed, but they didn't mow it. They didn't line the fields. The organizations did that. And the last church I was at, we had a ball field. They came and said, "Can we use your ball field?" And we said, "Well, yeah." He said, "Look, we're just going to use it for practice. We don't have," well, they came in and they got rid of all the fire ants. They fixed the fence. And 3 days a week, they had practice there. They had people that came, and we had stands, so they came and sat in the stands. And it was great for us, but they did it all. The church didn't do anything. And we were paying $800 a month to have that grass mowed.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I've been, I lived in Maryland. I've been here for 9 years. I lived in Maryland previously. That was never the case there. And we've never heard of any of around here, nobody does that. In fact, I don't know. John would probably have to get resuscitated if we asked to use the lawnmower or whatever, or had us over there cutting the grass. I mean, it's, would you allow us to cut the grass? I mean,
that's always been a sticking point. They can't use our equipment.
Well, no, they can't use your equipment. They had their own equipment. They came up with a trailer with 3 mowers and used one of them to mow the field at church.
I understand. I hear you. That's a great community,
but down the street, there was 8 ball fields, soccer and baseball.
I can tell you down in Georgetown City and Georgetown County, the city and county staff do all that.
Okay.
Well, but I think that was also, part of the restrictions on the deed, because, the grant of the property originally to the town carried the restrictions for parks and recreation and limitations and what the town would and wouldn't do. And, like you said, it's always been part of the agreement that the town basically contracted with your youth organization to say, we don't have a parks and recreation department. We don't have staffing like the county does. So we have this piece of property and it has to be used for this purpose. Paying the $25,000, $30,000 on the sunk cost to maintain the property is much cheaper for the town than trying to do what you do and hire people to do that and do all that coordination and so forth. So, in my opinion, we're getting off easy because you're doing all the heavy lifting. that we don't have to hire people to do.
I mean, it's tough nowadays, and I hear what you're saying, I mean, but volunteers, it's hard, we have to pretty much, put a mask on and get parents to code. I mean, it's a challenge, times have changed and it is different, and, we don't have parents volunteering to do concessions or cut the grass or do those things, and believe me, if we would, I can assure you, we would surely do it, but it was a tough.
If your kid played ball, you were expected to put in a certain number of hours. That was part of the contract.
I know.
Your kid's here, we need your help. I mean, that's just the way it works. And it was hard for single parents, I will say that. I knew some.
Do y'all use Martin Field over here much?
We use it for practice, like, we don't hold games over there because guys planted trees along, all the parking's gone, so we do it, and we allow teams to practice over there. But we don't have games over there anymore.
I know they used to have some over there.
Yeah,
and
well.
it just all seemed to go away, and it seems
there
like
was-
that field's not used a whole lot.
It's not, and we, kind of by design, seems like there's usually a lot of residents out there, whether they're walking their dog or they're chipping golf balls or they're playing frisbee or they're hitting baseballs. And you know what? We try to leave that as an open space, you know what I mean? I mean, we could always use practice fields, but we try to keep everything isolated here. And we even use Scipio, the South Strand Rec, we even use that for additional practice space, over the past few years. Trying to leave Martin a little bit open to, to what the local residents want to use, if they're over there.
And what is Grand Strand, what are your obligations to them to use their fields?
There's a rental fee. Fortunately, we've been blessed enough that we've had them waive it in most cases, so. But they usually, that's what they ask for, is a rental fee from us, but we go over and we try to help out there. We volunteer inside a little bit, in the rec building, but. That's just,
As far as what I see and what you're being charged, we're charging to do the fields and everything, but, the aspect of what the community's getting out of the ball field being there and the kids having something to do outweighs the expense. And the reason why is I was Member Sports Association where we grew up, my kids grew up and everything for 30 years. And I'm telling you, it's unbelievable how many kids that would have turned out wrong or had other problems and then turned out to be just good guys and good people.
That was where I started going with that little Hunter Renfro story and I kind of got sidetracked, but that's what that night we talked to his parents and his parents are awesome and Hunter would have been a great kid either way. But how much more, Hunter plays football for the Las Vegas Raiders.
Right.
That's pretty awesome, right? So would he have had that work ethic maybe if he didn't play baseball or he played football with his dad, his dad was a coach of Soxy. So he had done a lot of stuff, but it builds character and it builds some things that nowadays, most of these kids are sitting on a phone somewhere, that you're not getting.
And you're getting some direction out of it.
Yeah. And, so that's where we're at as an association. I don't know, we try to do everything we can do to help out and we'll continue to do that as long as, our contract says there's no end date on that contract. It's until somebody notifies us or we notify you that it's not going to be in place any longer. But I'll tell you, whatever that amount is, it's worth it. Whatever that cost is. And I know you guys have constituents, but I think a lot of that, if you guys say to because I heard it from Bill that, well, we paid a light bill. No, I mean, I think if they knew some of those things and they knew that we're trying to help upkeep, that there would be a little
And
bit
if you
more.
can make sure your schedule and everything else gets copied over to the town.
Yeah.
And so that they can put it out. I think a lot of the residents would, you watch, just go and watch kids play baseball one night.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be something good to go do, have a hot dog,
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
great.
And we're, like I said, we're open, anything.
Do you use your concessions big time? I mean, with hamburgers, hot dogs,
no.
the whole 9 yards?
So it's hard nowadays with the health department rules of what you can cook or what you can sell. Sodas, drinks, hot dogs, we'll usually have a mom boil hot dogs or cook hot dogs at the house and wrap them, and then we'll do that. But it's tough, and then finding the volunteers to do it, again, it's a challenge, for sure. But that's why we do the extra, we do tournaments and we do fundraisers. We have we do some things where, what did you do, Valerie? What was the thing you ran?
Baseball and
Baseball and
bourbon.
baseball and bourbon,
Ours just a little country field, 2 fields
Yeah.
right and left, and we made $4,000 to $5,000 every time we had a
Yeah,
a
when we
game.
have tournaments, we try to run tournaments, and that's where he mentioned there's some concession money, that's what that
Every
goes
single
into.
time. That's how we got all our fundraising money, right
Yeah.
off that canteen.
Yeah.
And just a little,
Yeah.
In my experience growing up, my kids, when they were in T-ball and, all the way up, there was always somebody who sponsored the team, whether it's a local pizza place or
Yeah,
whatever.
we do that.
And they all wore the T-shirts that says, Gino's Pizza or whatever on it. And that Gino's Pizza, had a following because now all these people are coming to their restaurant after the games and stuff like that. But at the same time, it helped out the association.
Sure. Well, that's so we limit our jersey sponsors because we have a 2-week window from the time you have registration to the time the season starts. And particularly the last couple of years with supply chain, trying to get shirts and get them printed, and then getting a sponsor in the back. So we, instead of a sponsor on their jersey, we do field sponsors or sign sponsors, and that's how we do it, to eliminate that, trying to get that in that window. But HTC, I mean, if you're up and over the field, you see all those sign sponsors. We get a lot of support. We feel like we do. Obviously, it could always be better. And you know what? If I was retired, and man, I hope one day I get there. Man, I'd love to spend a day or days out trying to drum up more sponsors because I feel like, man, I really feel like we could have enough money to tell you all send John's guys home. We could do it, but not with a full-time job. And that's kind of where most of our guys are at. But we try to do what we can with it.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
What is the needs right now that have to be, what is in disrepair or needs to be worked on?
So we've got some light issues on one of the fields, but I feel like we're working, we're trying to address that with Santee, and I think we've got some opportunity there for that. The fields need recrowned. We've got a pile of clay that's sitting at the end of that road, at the end of the parking lot. It's been there, recrowning the fields a little bit to help with drainage, stuff like that. Bathroom door, 1 or 2 of the bathroom doors don't shut all the way. I mean, they're just minor stuff, little stuff. The steps going up to the field, 1 press box needs to be redone. And we've offered that, we've offered to redo the steps. And John, you guys told us no, right? That we couldn't redo the steps.
I mentioned it, I don't recall the incident, I told Eric about it, see what the situation.
But, we've offered to rebuild the step, to replace the wood on the steps. We weren't gonna rebuild them, but the treads, put the treads on. And then we were told that we needed to get a permit to do it. Man, one, I don't think replacing in kind would constitute a permit, but even, because I am in the construction business, but if I did, I felt like, man, if we're offering to buy the lumber and do the labor, that, somebody else could get the permit. We also had, last year, we had.
Needs to be gotten in Horry County.
Yeah,
What's that?
That's county
That's Horry
permit.
County, that needs to go get the permit.
Yeah. Well, you guys have a little more pull there than I do. And I'd have to take a half day off to go get it. That's the other
Do you
part.
not have some problem with succession stand there, or does it not need repairing?
We had a pizza oven that burned
Yes.
that burned it, and, man, if that's.
They're taking care of that.
We repaired it.
Did you?
They did.
We put a new counter on. And we were told, and when we went over, we met with Eric on site, and we were told by Eric that you all were redoing the concession stand and not worry about it. So that's why it sat for a few months without us doing anything to it, because we were told it was getting repaired, full disclosure. So when I heard that news, that really took me back. I was like, wow, we were gonna repair it. I mean,
I was under the impression that we were repairing it too.
Yeah, so, it is what it is. Everybody's got a ton going on, and we're just trying to help where we can. When we talked to Bill and the mayor, and he said that they knew nothing about anything in the concession stand, we got the counter and fixed it, so.
But you invited me to watch. I'm joking.
We actually invited you to use the drill, but
The last time I was over there, supposedly he was gonna take care of getting that fixed.
well, we got it, and and we don't mind help, we don't mind. There's those things that we can do that helps out, that leaves your guys free to do other stuff, you know what I mean?
Well, it takes a team.
Yeah, it does,
Team of people to do
100%.
it.
And Eric, you know, John and Eric's guys, they've been awesome. I mean, you know, I felt like over the past 3 or 4, so there used to be, I've been president for 4 years now. Prior to that, there was a different board on the rec, and it seemed like it was always super combative. And, you know, when we all took office, that was one of the things that we said, man, we don't need to be at, you know, at odds. We need, you know, listen, trust me, I spend a lot of time with her. I don't get anything out of it. You know, if I'm doing it, I want to try to do it for the community. That's what you guys, you know, this is the family beach, right? So we're trying to do everything for the community, and we needed to try to work together. And we had, you know, Debbie, we met with Debbie and before she retired, and then since then, and John and Eric and those guys, I felt like we had a good thing, you know, I know Eric, you know, appreciates when we get Santee out there, and we appreciate when those guys do stuff. So, you know, I feel like we had a good relationship. So I was kind of taken aback when I got the call about, hey, what's going on? There's a lot of complaints about this, and you got, you know, with the money and again, I'm not trying to downplay how much $25,000 is, you know, particularly, you know, you guys have got a lot of stuff going on, and so we get it. But there is a cost, you know, there is a cost to build, you know, to build community members and make people.
Yeah. Well, our whole thing in getting together, but it's not, you know, we want to get rid of Huckabee, or we want to do this. Our whole thing is that everybody was inquiring about Huckabee because nobody knows anything about it.
Yep.
And then we found out that, you know, the lease is a continuing lease that goes on, and, you know, anything that needs to be changed, you know, if it doesn't get changed by January 1st, the lease is good for another year. Right. So we were just wanting to take a look at what we got, see what, you know, any modifications that need to be done. So that's the purpose of the meeting today. It wasn't like we want to kick you out.
Mr. Mayor,
You know,
I'd like to make something, I think we as a community, not only as a board, but we need to do everything we can to help. And the money we're spending towards this is nothing compared to what it really probably should be, but they're doing their part. We need to do our part. And I feel that the steps need to be fixed, and we need to, if they want to do it, we need to go about getting whatever they need to get it done. And anything at all.
We actually had beginning of this year, Home Depot, we had went to Home Depot, and Home Depot offered to put a roof on top of that batting cage structure. But
that's great.
We were denied. Right, John, you guys said we couldn't do it.
I don't recall the conversation. I think another
I think
party,
the issue is that they've gone to people rather than.
I think your facilities personnel might have chimed in on it. I'll definitely come to me.
But yeah, we had an engineer offering to donate his time to, you know, for the plans and everything, and there are things that we hope are still down the line, that, you know, we'd love to be able to do something like that.
That's just good community involvement, and I think that's something very, very important.
Yeah.
Well, and that's something we have to do better at, you know, as far as not just saying, no, you can't do that, but what do we need to do to make it happen?
Right.
You know, you've got all this volunteer resources and materials. We need to be jumping through those same hoops to do what we need to do to make it happen. You know, granted, we might need to interface with the county because that county
To
is,
the best
you
of
know,
my
that's on
knowledge,
county
everything
property.
that I've been asked, they'd like to do this, it's okay, I've approved.
Oh, yeah,
Floors in the cages, and then creating the T-ball field in the back, and the fence.
No, great. I think we've worked together great as a team.
Yeah.
And you know, like I said, I think, and you know what, and that's probably, you know what, John, maybe I should have came to your office and sat down and said, hey, we need to do that. And maybe pleaded a case, or maybe came to you guys and say, hey.
I would encourage you to get on the docket with her and come present something like this and show what you're doing when it's live and when we're having a meeting.
Sure.
So that people in the community on this side of the 17 can see this and say, hey, come on out, here's some flyers.
Sure.
You might be able to pick up some volunteers.
Yes, you might pick up some volunteers.
Yes, sir. Based on not just this, but the meetings that we've had and folks that I've talked to there, I would recommend, and I've started on it, I'm about 60% done, of rewriting the contract. There's a lot of names that have changed, there's a lot of dates that have changed, there's a lot of addresses that have changed, so getting all that up to date. And then in reference to the scope of work or scope of the support that comes from the town, you know, number one, I've got it here, the town clerk shall be the point of contact, because if they need to get on the docket, or they need the information to go there, because if you got one point of contact, it's not one of the workers
Yes.
at the fields, it's, you know, if it goes there, it's gonna get to where it needs to be done, so we can make it happen. In addition to that, I put the town shall maintain the fields for both Huntington Area Recreation Complex and Martin Fields. And then we'll work, or I'm not sure exactly the right word to use, to anything to do with maintenance, we'll discuss that with you case by case basis. But it should take a couple more days to get this done, because the contract's done, it's just a matter of time.
Well, the only thing that I would add on that is I would like to talk about possibly the town getting Martin Field back, since, you know, it's the way that the contract's written, it says that we're not allowed to use it unless we schedule it with you. And nobody knows how to do that and this and that, so nobody ever uses Martin Field.
Well, I mean, and so, I don't know, because there's people over there every day, so, and
Right.
we,
Well, they're not getting permits or doing
Yeah,
anything.
I
They're just
understand,
walking
but,
around and using it.
I don't, you know, look, we can word that however you guys want. I mean, like I said, we're not at any, you know, Jonathan, we're not locking any gates. Martin's open, you know, that you can walk on Martin anytime. And like I
John,
said,
does Martin have the same deed restrictions on it?
No, Martin was,
'Cause
that
that's
land,
just public
yeah,
land.
that was given to the town, same time we got Fuller Park from a family in town. There's 3 properties we got at the same time, Old Children's Park, Fuller,
And
and that.
I was looking at the contract and it says that the town actually has priority in Martin Field. All we gotta do is make sure we let
Yeah.
these guys know 30 days in advance and like.
But I mean, I know you guys have had the dogs over there doing the Frisbee shows and stuff, and you guys use it for some other stuff. I mean, you guys, at this point, we don't even know when you're using it, and that's why we've kind of just, you know,
Yeah.
we kind of just turned away, and, you know, we do send kids over there to practice with their teams. But, yeah, there's I mean, if that helps, where you guys say use that Martin Park, and we have to send you notice to borrow it, you know, to use it for practice, that would be all, I mean, that's fine. There's
Well,
no
after
issue.
listening to the meetings that we've had and everything, the only 2 things that I was really worried about is getting the snack bar fixed.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I think it
That's a
doesn't
moneymaker.
look good at all.
Yeah.
Which is, you say is fixed, and then the other is the Martin Field issue.
And the facilities.
But I
still
agree
could
with
use
Bill
some
that-
paint and brush, you know.
Yeah, I agree
Why
with
that
Bill
would
that
be
it
done,
needs
so it
to,
looks like it's a proper town hall.
Right.
I think that we do need to redo the contract, because it's so old.
Yeah, you know, if you want.
I didn't even charge, we ain't charging you extra for fake marble. How about that?
Brian,
But-
I would think if you want to use, or going to continue to use Martin Field,
Yeah.
let's specify what days. We're going to use it Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
we'll put a sign up to that effect, the youth group's going to use it those days. And if the town wants to use some
Yeah.
chase dogs or whatever,
Yeah.
they can. But I go by there and I don't ever see anybody on it.
We very rarely.
So, I mean, I live on the north side, and I go down there maybe two or 3 times a month, and I never see anybody there.
Nobody.
They all do. Yeah, we're in a bad spot for that, for sure. But yeah.
East, they have a lot of birds in there. Y'all have a lot of birds.
Have a dog cage.
Man, right, could we sell the geese somehow? Because that would eliminate all of our problems. We could make plenty of money if you could find somebody to buy it.
Christmas dinner's coming up.
I got over 40,000 emails that said you shouldn't be abusing our geese.
We've been over the port, but I had all those stuff for game. Geese.
Oh,
I don't know why they picked on me, but I got.
Oh, they didn't pick on you, I got them.
I should be able to send you a draft of that contract sometime next week.
And guys too, listen, y'all, if you do have a problem and you ain't getting it resolved, schedule a meeting or come here, you know?
Well, not even if you got a problem, just come see us.
Yeah, come visit.
Come visit, pass out your flyers.
Yeah, that's fair.
You know,
Well, we've done a good, like I said, I know, you know, John and his guys have done an awesome
Bring
job.
the
I mean,
kids.
really, you know, to keep things, you know, the park's old, right? I mean, it's, you know, it's not, you know.
Yeah, we
But
got
it-
it so very, we fixed, we don't need to money for it.
I heard the squeaky wheel gets the oil.
Yeah, but there's a lot of squeaks, right? And I don't
Bring the
just speak.
kids, let them hand the stuff out in their little
Did you
uniforms.
get a
and
booth at the family festival?
We
Or
did
some of
one
the other
time.
festivals?
We did one time, and then we've actually been on the parade a couple times. We've had you know, brought
Yeah.
a trailer home, had the kids wave.
It's coming up in 10 days.
Coming up 10 days,
Oh.
get them together.
Okay, we'll see what we can do.
I would suggest if you're gonna have a tournament, put it on the webpage
Yeah.
and advertise it, because there are people in town that would do just like you said. Take his wife out, and sit out there and watch the ball game.
Sure. Yeah, so I got a call on the way here, ironically. So the USSSA wants to rent the park this weekend. He's got 25 teams coming in, they need another place. So when I leave here, I'm going to see Eric to let him know that we're gonna
Well,
use the
you
park.
also need to contact Rob Bloomquist.
Yes, and I got his information.
And get that information out
Yeah.
on our webpage.
Okay. And you know what, this weekend, if you guys get a minute, go in there. Now, they're gonna wanna charge you to go in the gate, just tell them you're with the town and they'll let you in, but ride through there this weekend and look at the vehicles and just, and see the amount of, and, Saturday morning or Sunday morning, ride through where the Hardys and that, for a while there, the manager of the Hardys was asking us for his schedule because we need to man up. We're, it's wrapping around the building. The Piggly Wiggly, that guy, he was giving us cases of water for free because of the business he was getting for, so there were some, there's some benefits, but ride through there this weekend if you can and see it. I really think you guys would be pleasantly surprised to see it and to see, how much is it? How much are you getting off that tourism? I don't know. I know the USSSA, that organization, they do studies and he's got some numbers he said he could share. I'm sure they're inflated because he gets other things like North Myrtle, they give him a good deal. But I mean, to see, it does bring a lot of people in. And you know what? If it brings 5 people in, you know what? It might be 5 people we didn't have here doing something. So.
Yeah, but if we keep our fields up, we're gonna have more tournaments or more people wants to come and use their fields.
Yep.
So if there's something that we can do, let us know.
Well, so one of the problems with having the tournaments is so we don't have like the field drag, we don't have the machine to drag the field. And, with John's guys, one of the things about the tournaments is, they don't know sometimes if they're having the tournament till that Wednesday or Thursday because, they're trying to get teams and, so it varies. So, getting guys to work to help drag the fields is tough. We had talked once in the past, I think, John, you and I have talked with Bob, Mayor Childs about, but, if there was a way that we could get, have a 3-wheel field drag, if there's a way we could get to use that on the weekends where when one of our volunteers are over there and need to drag the fields, it would take 5 minutes as opposed to an hour. We use golf carts, our personal golf carts now to drag it just to try to make it work. So something like that, that's something we can talk about, we can talk about.
That's something that you get with John and you and John.
Well, the policy is the organization's been formed, it's been from all the initial creation of this whole thing, has been that the organization would not be using our equipment because they're not under our insurance.
Right. Yeah. But so I think Mayor Childs, he said, his idea was to gift it to the association and then the town still uses it. Then there's no insurance liability. We carry the insurance on it. But that's something we can talk about. But
And what insurance do you carry?
So we carry $1 million of insurance and it's stipulated in the contract. Yeah.
All the players.
Yeah, and then all the players, so each team, we get insurance on each team additionally, as well as our overall umbrella policy. Yeah, and so when we do have, like when USSSA rents it, I get a rider with the town of Surfside on their certificate of insurance with the town of Surfside, so we're covered as well. So that's, kind of standard.
But I think the key to this is gonna be communications and you're gonna have to.
Well, I think we need to, I'll get
get
with Sherry and maybe we can set up a reminder where maybe every 2 or 3 months, 2 or 3 board meetings, one of us can just stop in and, hey, let us know.
Thank you, da, 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 da.
Yeah, or,
this is what's going on.
Yeah. If Brad burns the counter with a pizza oven, then we can say Brad burned. That was actually my mom, by the way, so before Brad gets mad. No. Good stuff. What do you guys need? What do you guys want from us? I mean, obviously communication, right? So we can work on that for sure,
I
right?
just wanna know what your schedule is and I'd like to be able to come more of myself because I enjoy it. When my boys did it, we even put a pool in at our other house because kids out there didn't have nothing to go do. So what we did is we put a pool in a big, huge lazy L, like 40 feet long by 20 feet that way.
Yeah.
At our house at the farm. And every weekend was Sunny Plain baseball field party time. And every kid in the whole area came to our house every weekend with our kids. But I told my wife it's a lot of work. I said, but you know what? we knew where they were.
So
Who they were
I'm
hanging out
laughing
with.
because I'm having a built-in pool put in my backyard, and my yard backs up to Huckabee. So my only concern is I may ask John if he can put a taller fence up, because I'm like, man, after these tournaments, these guys are gonna be running over. I'll have the whole
You might
community in there
have, well,
swimming.
everybody asked me why we didn't put SP in the bottom of our pool.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, that's funny.
For Sunday Flames, but y'all have to put Surfside in the bottom of y'all.
Yeah, that's right.
I do think the biggest thing that I prefer to see is communication.
Yeah.
I think we like, as a whole, we don't have good communication.
And the more you get out there and get out there from Rob listing out the contract, put it up there on the Facebook page so
Yeah.
people read it. That way they don't think they're paying for everything.
Right.
And they say, well, we are paying 25,000. Well, what do we get out of that?
Right. Yeah.
Divide that by 12 months, divide
And it's
that.
like they say, in absence of good information, people create. their
Oh,
own.
they
That's
will,
right.
believe me.
Yeah. And look, and I know you guys, I wouldn't, I'm, like I said, I'm a member of this community, and you guys get enough beaten on everything else. So trust me, anything we can do to help to eliminate having to answer a question that's not real.
Kill them with information.
Yeah, we'll work on that. We'll get a plan together. Actually, we'll send something over to Bill or you guys to let us know kind of what we'll set up where every third meeting or something will come out. And just
Have the
see if
little
they
kids
have
come
any
to baseball uniforms. They can't get mad at them.
Hey, well, so we got some old candy bars we could try to sell you all.
And there'll be some
Hey,
takers.
Yeah.
there's 30 people here. You pass,
Yeah, right.
you get 30 sales.
We get the smallest little guy or little girl, and then she'll have that little face.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
That's it.
No matter if you like it or not, you're fine.
It's hard to say no to that.
That's right.
That's what I'm saying. They can't say no to it.
My daughter, they usually just buy whatever they get, whatever they're allotted, they just go ahead and buy. They don't get out and sell it.
I buy a lot of raffle tickets. I can
Yes.
assure you.
Yes.
Well, we thank you very much for coming
Yeah,
by.
we appreciate your guys'
And
time.
Bill's gonna be working on that contract.
And really, like, so I'll give you all a business card, but if you guys have any questions or whatever, feel free to call us. All our information is also on the website with our email addresses and everything. Man, if you have any questions, feel free to let us know. Like I said, we truly want to be part of this deal with you guys. And anything we can do, if y'all think of something, or the softball league, or I mean, we'll help any way we can, or we'll step aside and say, yeah, go use the field, do what you want. It doesn't matter. We're not in this.
I hope y'all think that we're on board with is to make everything work. That's what our goal is, to
Yeah.
get everything, the community together and
Sure.
all the parks and everything else.
Yeah.
Working together, make it as good as possible.
That's right. Well, you know what? We go, I mean, my family, we go to family day, and we, when you guys shut the road down, and we have a great time. That's just a good deal, and that's what this community is about.
Yeah, I think we need more promotion of what all you're doing and the great things you're doing.
Yes.
Not so much post the contract and everything else, because that gets into
Yeah.
confidentiality and stuff. But, promoting what you're doing, promoting that you're having these clothing drives and, that you're out, upgrading the batting cages or whatever you're doing. Promote those things and get with Rob Bloomquist to make sure he gets that out on our Facebook page, out on our webpage, into our newsletter. We do at least quarterly newsletters, start hitting that with what you're doing and what you see coming up, make sure you get in that loop to make sure you're posted everywhere. Because we also have input to the Visit SurfsideBeach.com webpage that is controlled by the Myrtle Beach Chamber.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We have the ability to control and add input to what is shown on that page as well. So, we can get you in advertising on that page as well.
So, and obviously the past couple of weeks has sparked us renewed interest in us trying to make sure we're showing you guys our part. The USSSA site, they do baseball and softball all over the country. So I talked to him last week, and he is going to get some information together, and we can give it to maybe Rob or whoever, to where you guys can put a link on their page for when people are coming into town, whether, and you can list your hotels and your restaurants and all that, and then they can, it's a quick link when guys are coming from Kentucky to play baseball or softball, they can click on that link and say, oh, well, we're Surfside Realty or wherever, Dunes or whoever.
Wherever. We're gonna stay there. and we're
Yeah,
gonna eat at the
so,
pizza place.
Yeah,
So-
definitely work with Rob on that.
And if you have any problems, please don't hesitate to call any of us.
Yeah. Okay.
That's what we're.
Awesome. You guys have anything?
Thank you all for
Just
coming.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Let me get you the card.
Like, I know when we met with Bob last month, it was, when you're having your beach sweeps, again, something, contact us. Let's get the kids that are
Yeah.
playing the ball
That's right.
involved in
That's
beach sweep as well.
That's right.
Just kind of coexist.
Give you one for everybody.
Okay, thank you.
Careful, we'll hook you up
Thank you,
with
Brian.
Keep Surfside
Well,
Beach
that's what I was
beautiful.
giving
And those ladies will run you
I think
ragged.
you'll all right.
I'll email it over to you.
Okay, perfect.
You've got my info, right?
Let me have one, okay?
Thank you. Thank you.
Say chief.
That's right, that's my old information, so you guys.
Got the old phone number and all, right?
Yeah, yeah. You know what, that's all I have on me. I'll email you guys I've got all your emails from the website, so I'll shoot you guys my info
Perfect.
as well, and I'll put all their contact info in there, so you guys can have it, and, if y'all need anything from us.
All right.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
We appreciate your time.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
We are okay to open registration?
Yes.
Go, yeah.
Oh,
That's happened too.
we didn't have intentions of shutting you down.
We just wanted to,
That was never the goal when you
No,
came here.
Just the last few years, we know what goes on in the town, we know all the things that are going, all the different moving pieces, and we've just tried to be self-supportive.
that's good.
So when we met with the mayor a week or two ago, I said to him, when we come in, we were kind of just talking about the costs and all. So, I said, Mayor, I'm disappointed. I thought when we come in here today, y'all were gonna give us a medal. He didn't think it was as funny.
We're out of attaboy stickers.
Yeah, right. Be careful nowadays. That's where all our cost goes in the, participation trophies now.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Well, this has been a pretty productive day. I mean, we started out with our civility, we went and talked to Creeds and Associates and worked an agreement out there. And now
Thank you, guys.
Thank you,
we
Brian.
have Huckabee under control. So with that, I think a pretty productive day, but I think our meeting is over. Yes, sir.
With the concession stand, it's come up several times over the last 10 years about improvements to the concession stand, various electrical improvements, this, that, and repairs. When it's come up, I've asked who's responsible for it. And I've been told that it's not really spelled out in the contract, previous administrators and stuff. We can nail that down. Also, I don't think it's reference to who pays for the garbage disposal. If we bill them for dumpster pickup, because we have 2 dumpsters out there. They get picked up every week during the season, and for anybody else, we don't charge ourselves. But is that something that we're gonna consider a cost of the association or a cost of us? That's never been spelled out in the contract, so you might wanna think about it.
Well, your concerns on that, what should be in the lease and everything, you need to get together with Bill.
I'm saying, if we can nail some of this stuff down and eliminate some of the
I
questions.
do know utilities, electricity, and stuff like that.
Yeah, Diana-
It basically states in the contract that if it's already there, it needs maintenance, we do it. And if it's not there, it's up to them to put it in.
Well, the
That's how
other
it
question I had was, does the sports association have control over Huckabee 12 months a year?
Well, no, they're done now.
No, but he just got through saying that next weekend they have a tournament coming on and that somebody's paying rent to come in next weekend. Well, that's not during
Yeah,
the
that's gotta be
season.
brand new, because I was told that pretty much as of a week or so ago, they were done.
Well, that was my only question. I really don't have a problem what they do on it, but do
No, I don't
they
care either. I
do they
just- I'm
have
trying to
control
schedule-
over it year round or just during their season?
That's the question.
I read the contract to say year round with the understanding that if the town has an event, that we basically shoot a letter and say, hey, on this day, we're gonna be using it, we get priority.
Yeah, because I need to seal coat that parking lot, and I'm shooting for January. So I made sure that they were done for the year, and when they're starting up, so I have a window.
Well, I'd like to reverse it on Martin Field, to where Martin Field reverts back to us. And if they want to use it for their practice and stuff, they give us notice and and they can use it and we
Right.
won't.
Go through
But that
shares.
gives us the opportunity to do like an old man softball team or something like that.
Or if they just come back to us without being used.
And,
know,
and
like
again,
any other
having one
citizen,
point of contact that they can go for that fall.
Yeah.
Well, I think if they weren't gonna use it for practice, they ought to say what days they're gonna use it. And then we sign them up for those days, and the rest of the time, it's open to first come, first served.
Is there any way to get the water off of that field? Because I'm just saying that, here we did the 4th of July there. We did the Easter egg hunt. We've done some stuff there. But I'll tell you what, if it rains just for 20 minutes, then that place is underwater for 3 days.
So it drains out, yeah. I mean, if the fields are damp, baseball fields, we have a product called Turfus we can put on the fields to dry it out, but that's pretty expensive. I mean, that's one of the reasons why we don't give them access to our supplies out there. They'll use a pallet of Turfus for a couple $1,000 just trying to get ready for a game, where the more appropriate way to do it is to cancel the game. But in the past, we've had occasions where they'd be like, no, we don't want to cancel, we want to use your Turfus, and we're like, that's not going to happen, because you can use the entire pallet of it, and the kid, they'll ruin the field. If you let kids run on the field right now, they're going to ruin the field. Divots and this and that and the other thing. So we've had to call games for them and say, you can't play today.
What about this drag chain or whatever they're talking about? Is it something that you use besides somewhere else besides?
No, it's just for the field.
But they're using golf carts to do it.
Are they any way?
According to them.
Yeah, well.
Are there any way that we can gift it to them and then they have to use it?
That's entirely up to.
I mean, is that because it wouldn't be something else that you need somewhere else, is it? I mean, if you
No,
need it
it's just-
somewhere else, we couldn't do
I
that.
think they have the use of it because he says they're using it.
No, they can't use it.
We use it, and when they want to drag the fields when we're not around, they just use one of their golf carts.
Yeah, but what are they dragging with their golf cart?
They have a little portable, like,
So
piece
it's
of
not
fence on a.
Piece of cyclone.
Cyclone
Yeah,
fence on
yeah,
a
just-
cement block plan.
Where if they.
We have
that,
a field drag on a John Deere 1200 three-wheeler that we drag with,
If we give them whatever that was that he's talking about, I don't know exactly what they're talking about. If he's not needing it for somewhere else, if we can gift it to them and then we wouldn't have no responsibility for it. Now you're saying that if we have a responsibility, they use it for insurance purposes.
Yeah, if you gift it to them and we take it off our insurance.
Yeah.
And it's their piece of equipment that's just stored there.
Yeah. And then that way they could use it anytime.
I don't know if there's any, our insurance ramifications of that, of having a gas-powered vehicle belongs to somebody else stored on our property, if that is an insurance liability for us or not.
But isn't the.
It's stored
dragger
inside
just-
a little garage.
Yeah, but isn't the thing that's dragged behind the tractor separate from the tractor?
Yeah. It's a drag.
Yeah.
They don't need to track, they just need to drag.
So just give them the dragger, so you figure it out.
The golf cart's not powerful enough.
Well, but that
That's what they
becomes
say
their
they're
problem.
pulling it with.
No,
They're pulling a piece of fence.
They're pulling a different.
But the way he's talking, if you'd gift that to him,
They'll
he'd
find
be able
something.
to use it at any time they wanted to, and they wouldn't have to have your tractor or whatever. They'd be able to use the.
Yeah, it would be there.
Equipment, they'd be there.
Yeah, it's something, that's
That's just something that we.
How much is that dragger?
how much is the three-wheeler?
No.
The-
What
It's
they're
the
pulling?
attachment.
What they're wanting.
It's not a lot.
Probably 1,200, 1,500.
Yeah, under $2,000.
And how long have you had it?
The last one we bought was 3 or 4 years ago. The 1200, the machine that pulls it, it's got about a 10, 15-year lifespan, about $8,000.
How long have you had that?
4 years or so.
Well, I think it's good that we're redoing a contract. Because this contract from 2013 or whatever, and
It's a lot of crap.
that's too old.
John,
So
would
we
you
need
use
to-
that
we
tractor
need to-
somewhere else?
No. It's specifically for that purpose.
So if you don't give it to them now, wait till you're getting ready to replace it and don't replace it here. This is yours.
Yeah, well, we don't really, I think they probably at some point in time, bring it to Martin to drag that infield. I have to speak to my guys to see if they do that or not. We don't do a whole lot of work at Martin as far as the fields go.
You keep it looking nice.
Yeah, I mean, we cut the grass and edge it and keep, everything maintained. I'm not sure how often that we drag that. Or line it for that matter.
I think there's a lot of stuff the town could do in the sports aspect that could be bring more tourism to the town that we're missing the boat on. A lot of that stuff.
Would Martin Field be better served to be like all grass, like a soccer field? Would that solve some of the wet drainage problem, or is it still hanging in the grass?
No, it's just hanging up there. That was just raw land, in fact.
Just because it's so low?
Yeah, it's right there in the middle of the flood zone, and it drains into Floral Lake. We put some additional trees around it for shade the lake and into beautification and to draw up stormwater and all that stuff. But that was, like I said, that little strip on the other side was given to us years and years ago in the 60s. And in fact, Betty Lowry's deceased husband and Jim Daniels were the first ones who graded that years and years ago.
Okay, well, I think we beat that horse to death.
And with that, I need a motion to adjourn.
Mayor, I make a motion to adjourn.
All those in favor?
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned. Everybody did good today.